Welcome, everybody, out to yet another episode of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions for November 7th, 2015. I am your host, Adam Mickelson. Welcome, and to those who are new here, this is Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the podcast where we talk all the week's events in geek. It can be anything from tech and gaming to movies, TV, anime, comics. The sky's the limit. As long as we think that it's geeky enough, it makes the bare minimum. I don't know the word I'm looking for.
Makes the cut.
It makes the cut. There you go. And first of all, we welcome you here, and I'm obviously not alone. I'm being joined by my wonderful panel of fellow YouTubers. First of all, we have Alex Short, a.k.a. ShadowBlazer3000, the anime reviewer, and apparently the magical girl in boys' clothing. I don't know what I'm looking. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Oh no, I'm sorry. I forgot. He's the senior magical girl correspondent because we like making him correspondence of stuff. How are you doing, Alex? So that I don't have to talk.
I'm doing well tonight, Adam. Thank you.
Very good. I apologize if I seem a little tired, guys. As you could tell in my little statement, I am BlizzCon'd out. This is what I've been doing all weekend, so I'm like very much craving a bed. So that's just the way it's going to go tonight, but thankfully I have some things to talk about. And also, if I move around in my chair a lot, it's because I have literally been sitting in this chair all weekend, and my back is really beginning to hate me. We're not on speaking terms right now, so I'm just warning people in advance. I'm also being joined by Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost, aka Studio Phantasma. How are we doing, Romney?
Doing all right. Speaking of sitting in chairs for long periods of time to the point of pain, that's what I had to do today. But it was not because I was watching BlizzCon, but because I had to work. I had to remote from home, have to do it tomorrow. So basically, just when I thought I could escape work, it pulled me back in.
Once I thought I was out, then it pulled me back in. Yes. And although all I have to say to you is do it. No, this is Aldo Gomez of Board Offline and of Anime Overdub ES. How are we doing this wonderful night, Aldo?
I'm actually a little tired out too. I think we're all kind of tired out. Me mostly because I've just been going through it. I've just been kind of trying to speed run through unlocking Smash Brothers characters as we've been talking because I had a botched transfer to a new 3DS that I purchased. And now I'm kind of trying to go back to having my Smash Brothers back at 100%.
Yes,
so
obviously, marathoning is not fun. I can attest to that.
No, and I've also been watching some anime because I have another. I'm afraid I'm not a monogamous podcaster. I am part of another podcast called Reviews vs. the World, and we have an anime podcast coming up. And I have to watch. I've been having to marathon anime in order to catch up to that.
What anime is it?
It's a few.
Oh, okay. Can I ask what they are, or are you keeping them secret?
Yeah. So the ones were leave me alone, Keith. Evernote. So we're rewatching. So we're watching Cowboy Bebop, Fruits Basket, Sailor Moon, Durarara, Haikyuu, and we're doing a bonus viewing of One Punch Man.
Wow.
So it's kind of like a beginner's guide or intro guide to anime type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of refreshing myself on most of the series, while most of our panelists are only watching one or two of each episode.
Okay. Wow, man. Because at that point, I think it's fairly safe to say you went to the grocery store and you bought one of those big Econo-size things of popcorn and just went nuts. Because that feels like my list on a week.
If I might shamelessly plug my own thing here, you're doing an anime guide for beginners. I'm working on the very same thing myself. It's still in the scripting stage right now, but I'm wanting to do a similar thing.
You can't do that.
Cool.
You haven't watched Cowboy Bebop yet.
Yeah, so just before I derail, this is just kind of for a podcast that I don't run, and so this was kind of something that was suggested to me and my buddy Steven, who's also the other resident anime fan on the podcast with me.
Not to be confused with me, people. It's a different Steven.
It's a different Steven, not this Steven.
I thought we figured this out because we don't call you Steven, we call you Romney.
Yeah, but people see my name. They get. I mean, if there's one thing we've all learned on YouTube, it's that people are stupid.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, so whatever, Alex. I wish you the best of luck. It's really hard coming up with a newbies. We try to go really varied, with ours. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. You're right. It's tough to find titles to try have a broad base appeal.
Yeah, you have a broad base appeal. You have so many different types of people who like different things. It's just weird. It's hard.
Yeah.
And for the record, I give Alex crap, but this is one of those things that I will start a campaign on his channel because he has not seen Cowboy Bebop, and he should.
Well,
you really should.
that makes two of us, because I also haven't seen Cowboy Bebop. Because I have the DVD. I bought the DVD.
You know what? We had an agenda for Gaming with the Geeks. I'm now going to change it to showing Romney and Alex Cowboy Bebop while me and Aldo just kind of talk about it.
Well, the thing is, I'm actually going to review it as an episode of From the Shelf under the subtitle Classics I Haven't Watched, so who knows? Maybe it'll just be a crossover between me and Alex.
I'm just one of those people who I'm not gonna crucify you for not having seen, oh my god, the greatest anime of all time, but I am gonna sit here and just be like, yeah, you should watch it. My only advice is if you can set aside a 2-hour block, power through the first 4 episodes. The first 4 episodes are not that good.
First 4 episodes are hard to do. Episode 5 is where it picks up. Isn't that episode 3? No, it is. Episode 5, Ballad of Fallen Angels. So, yeah, that's our advice.
Yeah.
It's like those people who like to occasionally come out to Linkara and probably even Romney and say, skip this Power Ranger season, it sucks!
Yeah, but much like Linkara says, though, you kind of got to watch the whole thing in order to really fully understand it.
Yep.
Indeed.
It's like Totoro. I hate the first hour of Totoro, but you can't get the movie if you don't watch that first half hour.
Exactly.
Or a more recent example, it's like the Attack on Titan movies, where you have to, the second one is good, but you have to watch the first one.
I have to watch the first one.
I wouldn't say that because they do have a really solid
they do have a recap, that's true.
Yeah, but I would argue that you don't get as much of the anticipation and the build-up from that recap, because a lot of the stuff that left us so dissatisfied with that first movie was all rectified and addressed in the second one. So you need that feeling of frustration in order to have that feel really, really good.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm still going to do that re-edit. Once I get the Blu-rays, I'm going to do that re-edit.
Do it. Let's do it.
So Aldo, maybe you can agree with me on this. What is it exactly that Aaron does when he becomes a Titan? He grew it. Sorry, I had to do it. All right, I'm good.
I'm not. 1 weekend was fine. I'm not gonna enable you a second weekend.
Yeah, it'll basically be like the lesser sequel if we bring it back.
All right, so we actually do have a couple of stories to get into, and people are probably going, get to the stories already! Dang it!
Get on with it!
Get on! Yes, get on with it!
Do the thing!
Do that thing with the stuff. So the first story that we have tonight, it really feels like we should have covered this, 6 months ago? 4 months ago?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Yeah, it was a June release date, so 4 months ago. And finally, Warner Brothers decided to, pull their head out of the sand and do this. So people remember in June, especially if you're Angry Joe fans, that when Arkham Knight released, the PC client of it was, crap. Am I putting it bluntly? Do people want to actually go into detail? Because from what I was told, it was a glorified version of broken.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
So unless you were playing on the highest end NVIDIA card, and even then you still had some problems, you were putting up with frame rate crashes, you were putting up with frame rate crashes, and I think that was some other issues as well. I mean, it was a bunch of issues.
I'm trying to think. Did you actually play Arkham Knight on PC, Aldo? I can't remember.
I did not.
Okay.
You
avoided it.
I had a friend who played it for me, so that's all I needed.
He went through the pain, not me.
every day at work, he would try to justify how great it was. And I was like, he's like, it's a really beautiful game. And I'm like, yeah, because the frame rate is so low, you can really stare at the scenery.
Well, so the failure of it is as the story that we have says, is finally complete, because after being removed from digital stores, which even then happened, 3 weeks to a month after,
Yep.
for being completely broken at launch, going through a 4-month overhaul, and returning with too many lingering issues to forgive, Warner Brothers has finally thrown in the towel. If you bought the game on PC, you are eligible for a refund between now and the end of the year. This took 4 months, people.
Well,
4 months.
To be fair, they did re-release the game in stores a few weeks ago, and they started offering patches and DLC, but they've been trying to slowly fix it, but they realized that that's kind of...
It's a sinking ship.
It's
I think
an
at that
uphill
point,
battle.
Damage was done. You know, like a lot of the people that I knew of that wanted to play Arkham Knight on PC, at that point with the original port, the damage had been done. Like, they weren't willing to go and buy another copy of it. In fact, a lot of them just thought, I shouldn't have to buy a new copy of it. They should just give me a free copy, because they're the ones that screwed it up. And I'm 50-50 on the matter, but the bottom line is that really this should have happened. Like, at least in half this time, Warner Brothers should have dealt out refunds to the people who bought the PC client and complained, because I know that the people who complained filled their inboxes. I know Angry Joe, for crying out loud, he went so nuts on this PC port that I know his fan base all hit Warner Brothers hard, demanding refunds. And so the fact that this happened 4 months later is a little shocking to me.
Yeah, especially when Steam introduced the refunds. I think that was really what did it. So now, because they released the game shortly after Steam said, "Hey, now you can get refunds," and it opened the floodgates.
The thing is that, you know, people who did purchase it on Steam were able to get their refunds from the get-go. This mostly extends out to people who didn't buy it on there, who probably bought it from like Green Man Gaming or some of the things.
A copy, I'm assuming.
Yeah, exactly. So like my buddy bought his off of Green Man Gaming, so he couldn't get a refund. So now, you know, if he wants, he could get his refund if he wanted to.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Like, it's, you know, at the same time, though, this is also why I say do research. This is why I say pre-orders are not that good, because consumers, you know, myself included, we're all kind of like self-entitled pricks sometimes. So,
is that how you really feel, Aldo?
You know, but at the same time, I mean, as you know, as jerks as we can be as consumers, give me a free copy, I want a refund, blah blah blah. At the same time, Warner Brothers could have easily said, there's patches coming, so you don't get a refund.
Yeah, they could have. They really could have.
Yeah.
And in essence, they kind of still are saying that. I mean, they are giving out the refunds, but they are saying that the DLC is, or the patches are coming to fix it. But they are also willing enough to admit that they won't be able to fix some of the issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but part of this also sparked a conversation between me and Romney, where it was just like, this just seems all too convenient.
Mm-hmm.
That this is happening so close to supposedly when we're looking to increase hype for things like Batman v Superman, when we're trying to increase hype for other potential games. And so I can't help but wonder if the fact that Warner Brothers is doing this is to get those Batman fans back on their side, so to speak.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I can't help but at least ask the question. Granted, I know that, you know, I know Aldo's going to point this out to me. It's like next summer when Batman v Superman comes out. But at the same time, Warner Brothers, I don't think, can afford to piss off any of its fan base.
Especially
They
now.
need them coming out to the theater.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like you said, we got 6 months until then, and I think they're not. I don't think it's necessarily too late for the game or too early to do this for the movie. I think, if anything, it's the perfect time right now to do it before the movie, because it gives them time to kind of get the bad taste out of their mouth and essentially start coming out with something else to kind of make us forget about it. Be like, oh, Warner Brothers came out with a broken Arkham Knight. Look at this other thing we'll be releasing. And, oh, look, we have 6 months till the movie.
Yeah, or it'd even be like a case of, oh, hey, it's a part of like the patches that fix it. Here, Batfleck DLC.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. So it's just one of those things that actually kind of irritates me that, again, this took 4 months to do. And frankly, you know, like I get that they could have. I agree with you, Aldo. I think they could have literally just said, screw you. You paid the money. You got to deal with it. You know, you're the one that bought the PC version. It's not our fault it didn't work. Because they could technically make that claim, but the fact that they waited 4 months to do this whole refund process, and even then the refund process is kind of sketchy because, like, to the people who bought an Arkham Knight Season Pass, they're only eligible for a refund with the main game. They don't get a refund for the DLC that they paid for.
Once again.
So, I mean, again, fine print details, and they're even admitting, like, we can't fix some of these issues. So again, this doesn't fix the problem, and just makes, to some extent, it makes Warner Brothers look kind of incompetent when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, especially when they didn't really research the company that was handling the port. So that's kind of the big takeaway here is also make sure the company that's going to be doing the port knows what they're doing.
Refresh my memory, who was the one that did the PC port? I know Rocksteady was the main people behind the consoles and the main version.
I think it was their Warner Brothers studio.
No,
I think they were supposed to be handling it.
No, it was a separate studio. I think it might have been based in China, I think. Like, the name Iron Galaxy keeps popping in my head, but I know that's not right.
No, Iron Galaxy is Killer Instinct.
All right, I'm gonna look this up. We're doing it live, people.
Okay, so while we're doing that, Alex, what is your thoughts on Warner Brothers taking 4 months to dish out refunds for a bad PC port?
It's like, really? What the hell, Warner Brothers? It really did take you 4 months? That's really horrible.
I actually saw a webcomic that I think would illustrate this perfectly, maybe even for you, Alex.
I was right. It was Iron Galaxy.
Oh, it was? Really?
Yeah.
As in Killer Instinct Iron Galaxy.
Looks like it was developed by Iron Galaxy Studios. Let me just scroll down to where it said. Come on. Polygon.
Oh, that's concerning.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, there was actually a webcomic, and I wished I could have found it before we got onto the podcast, but it was basically like Warner Brothers games, and it's a little kid with one of those little ball on a string kind of paddles. Just ding, 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 ding. That's what they were doing for 4 months.
Yeah, basically, Iron Galaxy did the initial port, but because of all the backlash, Rocksteady took over.
Okay, so that's already not a good sign if you have to bring in another company later.
Well, I mean, they didn't have to bring in another company. The company just took it back.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, that says a lot to Iron Galaxy, because, I mean, Iron Galaxy, as far as I know, Season 2 of Killer Instinct has been a success, hasn't it, Aldo?
Well, I mean, to be fair, there's a difference between when you're making something and porting something else.
Yeah.
It's true.
And it could very much have been an ET scenario where they weren't given a lot of time to do a lot of QA, so...
I honestly want to just assume that they told them, we have a deal with NVIDIA, so make sure it works with this particular NVIDIA card, which is a high-end NVIDIA card, and don't worry about anything else.
Yeah, it's like, Radeon, what's that?
I mean, if you remember, we kind of kicking back a couple months. We also had reports that QA had been reporting a lot to Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers said, "Yeah, it'll be fine."
Yeah, exactly, and that was their downfall as far as I was concerned.
When are you going to learn? Stop ignoring your QA testers. Those are important people.
I mean, who do you think you are, Sega? Oh wait.
Oh,
Sorry,
Alex. I want to go back to a comment about what Aldo said earlier, and I don't think this is a case of entitlement by asking for a refund. I don't think these are expensive products. This shouldn't be a case of buyer beware. This isn't like finding an indie game on Steam where you should have to try and do a lot of research to make sure this is a competently built small project game by one person. This is supposed to be a big AAA multimedia expensive project. I think I don't think it's too much to ask that it works.
I'm not saying like in this particular situation, but I'm saying a lot of times as consumers we can be jerks.
Sure.
No, but definitely. I mean, I do agree that the moment they pulled it off the shelves, they should have been offering refunds as well.
Yes. I agree with that. Sometimes gamers can be, well, douche nozzles.
Yeah.
Because I've already mentioned retake Mass Effect who knows how many times.
I can understand not really refunding the DLC because that's extra stuff. That's kind of, but for the main game, they should have offered refunds ages ago, at least within a month. It could have. I think the way you could have softened this is like, well, we can either offer you a refund or you can download patches, and if the patches don't work, then come back and see us for a refund.
Exactly.
Actually, that DLC thing is probably what bugs me the most. Not so much that I'm taking like 4 months to offer this. The not refunding DLC. How are you gonna refund me the game but not the DLC? How am I supposed to?
Well, to the season pass holders, that's a bit of an issue because they didn't pay base price. They paid more than that.
Well, remember the season pass was $40. That's almost a whole other game.
Yeah, exactly. That's why that's why I'm at least a little kind of shocked that they aren't doing anything for the DLC owners, especially the season pass holders, because I know that especially this generation, man, season passes are getting kind of atrocious in price.
Yeah,
I just barely talked to a person who bought a season pass for Destiny, and remember, Destiny was having all those issues before the recent expansion for it came out, and so it's just like, holy crap, really? You're not even going to take that into consideration? Because it's not like they're paying $60. It's more like they're paying $100.
And this goes back to my personal vendetta against pre-orders and season passes. Don't do them.
Yeah, I tend to be in that camp too. I don't do pre-orders at GameStop anymore. I don't do pre-orders really. Period. Even if they have good, here's the thing. There's occasionally a moment where I see a GameStop commercial with a unique piece of DLC for a pre-order. I still don't do it.
My pre-orders, the only thing I've pre-ordered in the last 5 years has been J-Star's Victory versus, and I pre-ordered that the day before.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I'm getting too personal in this, but And
I've only done one pre-order this year, and it's the first time in a couple of years that I've done a pre-order with GameStop, and I actually got something for it. I was a little shocked by it, but originally I was really iffy about even putting money down.
And just to clarify, I'm not saying that people who pre-ordered or who paid for the season pass had this coming to them. I'm not saying that at all.
No.
As consumers, you have the right to do whatever you want with your money and support the companies you want to support. What I'm saying is we should be more careful and not encourage this from companies who offer season passes and pre-orders, because then we get broken games and we get undelivered promises.
Yeah, this is the equivalent of voting with your dollar. When you purchase that stuff and you get the broken product, you really are, by pre-ordering, you are encouraging the broken product.
And it's really sad because for $40 for a season pass of bonus content for Arkham Knight, this is probably the most disappointing set of DLC we've had in an Arkham game.
I wouldn't know. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but.
And that's what kills me is that it's kind of disappointing DLC. It's all really short. It's all full-priced DLC. So it's one of these things where I'm not saying this is their attitude, but it feels like their attitude is, well, who cares? We have their money.
Yeah. Oh, well. But, yeah, that's unless we have anything further to add, we have another story that we need to get to, and I kind of don't want to, but we need to.
Okay.
So, we have another edition of... I swear, this has become the sitcom of Geek News. We have another edition of Kojima versus Konami!
I think a better example would be crap Konami does.
There you go. Konami does the darndest things, is what you're saying?
Yeah, that could work too, because I know there was
We're
that William
just-
Shatner sitcom called F My Dad Says, or Crap My Dad Says. It has like
We
the
just-
X bleeped out, so.
We honestly just need Kojima like peeking in through a door, going, "Oh Konami,"
Oh, Konami.
and cue the laugh track.
Oh, Konami. So here's what happened this week. So if people remember last week, apparently they was that the one where they made the claim he had not left the company and they had pictures of the goodbye party. Okay.
And he was on extended vacation.
So this time around, Konami was officially saying that they didn't close Kojima Productions and they closed Kojima Productions this week, at least the Los Angeles office of it. So, which is it, Konami? Because I'm getting sick and tired of this crap. I'm getting sick and tired of this runaround. Did you fire him or not? So basically, Kojima Productions Los Angeles opened in 2013 and was renamed to Konami Los Angeles Studio after Konami restructured in March. The studio worked on both Metal Gear Solid 5: The Ground Zeroes and The Phantom Pain. And a report by the New Yorker last month claimed that Metal Gear Solid series director Hideo Kojima had left Konami Los Angeles Studio on October 9th after a farewell ceremony. Konami later denied the report, saying at that time he was taking an extended vacation, and then now we have this Los Angeles studio closing. So
He's just on vacation.
if he's on vacation, why are you not willing to keep the lights on, Konami?
Well, and here's the thing. I thought this was the same article that I read the day it was posted to our board. But one of the articles I had read about this exact same thing also reported that Konami was looking, after closing down the LA studio, they were looking for money to start producing another Metal Gear game.
Yeah, the big boss pachinko machine. That's what they're making.
A pachinko machine.
Which honestly, I mean, out of any franchise that they own, as much as I hate to admit it, Metal Gear's brand of goofiness is probably the one most suited for pachinko. But it's also the one I care the most about to not go to pachinko.
It's almost
Yeah.
it's also that it would be more deserving of the whole erotic violence tag than Castlevania would be. Because you could do something based off of like I know some Kojima fans are going to come out of the woodwork to kill me, but given Metal Gear Solid 3, you could do that. You could make the claim of erotic violence, and
You can even go beyond that. I mean, there's Ava from Snake Eater, there's Quiet. You could even use Meryl from Metal Gear Solid 1.
You guys are all forgetting Metal Gear's greatest sex symbol, Volgan.
Kuwabara, Kuwabara.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I did not need that mental picture.
No.
You
Why
remember
did you
the
remind
scene?
me?
You
No.
remember the scene I was talking about, Adam?
Oh,
Yeah, just hope that
Rajanovich.
just
Oh,
hope that
Rajanovich.
when, just hope that when Volgan comes on screen, it's not Chocolate Sunday night.
Oh,
And I love Alex's face in this whole thing. He's like, I have no idea what they're talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
We
So
might
just-
need to fix this,
Just
man.
to do a quick recap, you're infiltrating the enemy base, and Volgan, one of the generals, is kind of checking to make sure that people are who they say they are. When he goes up to this person, he goes up to Snake, who is in disguise. He reaches for his undercarriage to check for the package.
Specifically, he's in disguise as Volgan's little boy toy.
Wow.
Who looks a lot like Metal Gear 2's Raiden.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
Metal Gear Solid 2's Raiden, but at that point we didn't know that he was the boy toy or anything like that. So all of a sudden you have this moment. It's just like,
And it was kind of the best moment out of those kind of 20
it
plus
kind
hours.
of was, because it was like Kojima literally looked at this whole scene as like, I need them to get discovered. How is the perfect way to figure out to get them discovered? And nobody would see it coming. And hey, nobody saw it coming.
Yeah.
I mean, the best part was, like, I have to tell this story now, because when that scene actually happened, my dad was in the room. And my little brother at the time, he's like, pause the game. And he had to go rip my little brother out of the room. Keep in mind, my little brother was like 14, 15 at the time when I actually played this. So it's like, you get out of here. And here's the thing. I mean, from what I was told, because my sister was also in the room, she likes watching games but not necessarily playing them. But she actually tells the story that me and my dad literally had the exact same look on our faces, because we were just like. And at that point, you're caught. I mean, you're not really able to do anything about it, but it's just like, damn you, Kojima. And don't lie to me when you didn't look into Solid 4 and say, I have to cover for this contingency now. I have to cover for this possibly happening.
Yeah. But yeah, to bring it back to the main point, though, with what Konami's been doing, it just looks like they've been doing what they've been doing to a lot of their other companies, like Bimani and a few of the other ones that were responsible for other franchises they were known for, where they're basically disbanding them and just shuffling what's left into the main in-house thing for Konami, like into the main in-house company, because that's what they did with Bimani, the people behind Dance Dance Revolution, Karaoke Revolution, Martial Beat, all those music games disbanded. Now they're just part of the music and sound effects department at Konami.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's the same song and dance from Konami, and it just makes it like I get that they're trying to improve their PR, because I know that they are. I've seen at least that impression from Konami. They want to get past the bad publicity that they're getting, not just from the Kojima stories, but from the pachinko game announcements and things like that. And the funniest thing is that the way that they're trying to avoid this Kojima nonsense is by bringing up the Kojima nonsense.
They're in complete denial, basically.
Yes, that's the best way to explain it, Romney. They are in denial. They want to think that they want to at least give the impression that they still have Kojima on the payroll.
Once again, they are that girlfriend that doesn't want to believe that the boyfriend broke up. Or vice versa, because of quality.
Exactly. That's the perfect way to explain it.
We're honestly like we're honestly like one backhand away of them slapping Kojima from being in an abusive relationship.
Well, that's kind of what he was already in already, though, when you hear about some of what Konami's been doing to try to force people to quit instead of firing them. So it's already there. It's not so much, they're one back. No, they're there. That's where they are currently at.
Yeah.
So it's not so much that, it's like borderline abusive. No, we crossed that threshold a long time ago.
Oh yeah, we've crossed that threshold like for most of this year.
Yeah. Kojima's hiding in the crisis center right now. That's how bad it is.
I want to see a photoshopped image of that, like him in a little crisis center, like huddled on a bed.
Yeah,
please don't let Konami get me. Please don't let Konami get me. Please don't let Konami get me.
No, that's when you just Photoshop like Kojima's face onto Shelley Duvall, and then you just have like a Konami logo swinging the axe at the door, just trying to hack in.
Here's Konami.
You will come back to Konami, damn it!
No, better one would be just like, it's like they get through, it's like, pachinko!
Yeah, that's exactly what would happen, pachinko. Because, that's going to happen. So,
Romney, can you animate that?
I'll try. I don't promise anything.
Animation assignments, and he'll get to them in their due course.
Romney's already stacked up on animation projects as it is for us.
He's supposed to do the Disney...
The Mickey Mouse Riot Squad. There's the Mickey Mouse Riot Squad. There's something involving Star Wars. I know there was some sort of joke involving Star Wars.
No, I think that was again encompassed into the Mickey Mouse Riot Squad.
Oh yeah.
And then also the what was it? Romney wanted the Michael Bay radio moment for me with Transformers. He wanted that personified in animation. And then Attack on Titan, I think we wanted something done with that too.
Well, yeah, the re-edit of the live-action films into one movie.
And I think last week, me and Aldo wanted him to paint one of us as Palpatine, just saying do it the entire time.
Yeah, but like I said, there will be the re-edit of the Attack on Titan right after Jack Ryan RoboCop.
Exactly. So there really isn't much else to add on to the story. Konami just won't acknowledge that the relationship is over.
They just need to let it go.
Urge to make joke rising.
Rising.
I don't want to get more crap.
Rising. Fading. Gone.
Damn it. You had to mention Metal Gear Rising. Let it go. The Revengeance. So, people get mad at me for bringing up that word, but as far as I am concerned, that is one of the greatest words in the dictionary ever made. Because it's just like, really? Revenge and vengeance means the exact same thing. So what do? Revengeance.
I was like, no,
why? Because it sounds edgier.
Well, it's just like, let it go, like Rising is just like, the cold steel shines on the city tonight, not a blood drop to be seen.
Romney, now you have to edit that. Now you have to animate that.
Yeah, question is, who am I gonna get to sing as Raiden? That's the real question.
I'll do it. I'll do that. Don't you understand, Raiden? You were the lightning that night. All right. So let's go ahead and get into the next story here. And I've promised my fellow panelists I would keep this brief. But and we actually will come back to it a little bit later in the podcast tonight. But in case people hadn't been able to tell with my little subheading, it says BlizzCon out because BlizzCon 2015 has happened over the last couple of days. And so that's pretty much been a majority of the tech news this week because of all the speculation that has gone into, what BlizzCon would have to announce. We had some guarantees, but we didn't have others. And so we're just going to go quickly into the announcements that they had. And Aldo is also a fellow Blizzard fan, not so much Alex and Romney, but it's okay.
That's kind of stretching it.
It's stretching it, but I actually was very proud of you, Aldo. In fact, I'm kind of disappointed because I saw you on my BattleNet and I sent you messages and I never got a reply.
Oh, I probably logged on to update stuff and then.
Yeah, that's probably what I was guessing. Or maybe you were waiting for me to give you an Overwatch beta code, which I didn't get. So, but we'll at least go into this a little bit. Excuse me. This has been my weekend. So first of all, Diablo, really not a whole lot of announcements. Instead of a new expansion, there is a new patch that is going to put in a bunch of new territories. A bunch of new features, but it really is, Diablo trying to stay alive, and I'm not trying to say that in a negative light. I actually think this BlizzCon has had probably the most good announcements that there have been in a while. I mean, I've seen a slow BlizzCon, and this is not it. So Diablo is kind of the lightest one. With Overwatch, we got 3 new heroes announced. And we also got announced that they are going to, because this is actually one of the things that me and Aldo kind of debated last year when Overwatch got announced, is the story of Overwatch is kind of vague. And they aren't going to put a campaign mode into this game. And so we were like, well, how are you going to flesh out this story, especially when you put out this Pixar-esque trailer for it? How are you going to do that? And it just so happens that they announced how they are, and one of the parts of that announcement is that Activision Blizzard is actually going to start doing its own film and TV content based on IPs. And it was not confirmed today, but it was slightly hinted that Overwatch would be one of the properties that gets this, in the form of like animated shorts. There's going to be a full-on comic for it, which I'm sure some Blizzard fans are actually going to ask me to review. Probably even Aldo, because he's kind of the comic reviewer here too. At least as far as people are concerned with Frank Miller, because we still have to get together to do that. But there is actually one other thing with Overwatch that I have to bring up. So, like I said, there were 3 new characters announced, and 2 of them, I think, are borderline pushing the copyright envelope a little bit. And so the first one that I'm actually going to bring up is kind of an obvious one, but I have to at least go there. And Alex is not really going to get this, but Romney and Aldo will, and I need blunt answers here, people. So the guy in the middle here, what does that look like to you?
I don't understand why Alex wouldn't get that. That pretty much looks like Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, he's a Metal Gear fan, so...
Well, I mean, you've got, like, equal parts Raiden, equal parts Gray Fox, but, to be honest, it's tweaked enough that they can get away with it. It's not on the point where it's, like, really dangerous. I mean... It's just stereotypical cyborg ninja. We've seen them in other media before.
Yeah, I mean, you could honestly mistake him for Yoshimitsu at this point with having like a normal version and a not normal version.
Yeah.
So basically, this new character Genji got announced, and originally, this is an original concept for it. Before it was actually one character. Now they split those into two characters. One originally got announced last year at BlizzCon, and that's Hanzo on the right. But Genji is the new announcement here, and he is very close to Gray Fox. But he's not the biggest offender here. I at least wanted to bring this to my fellow Metal Gear fans and say, is there enough of a difference? I'm kind of thankful that there is. The biggest offender here is going to go specifically to Aldo and to Alex, because one of the other characters that got announced is I'm not kidding in how they said this. She's apparently a former esports gamer that has now retired and is now fighting actual robots and actual crises in the real world. So first of all, awesome on that. But her outfit, oh my gosh, her outfit. This outfit looks kind of familiar, does it not, you two?
Not really.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty.
I know what you're trying to allude to, Adam. I don't really see it.
But
Going for an Ava plug suit thing.
I mean,
It looks really similar.
It's every plug suit ever, and
Well, yeah,
really.
it looks more like something you'd see in a Phantasy Star game, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the kind of outfits you get in Phantasy Star universe.
But one of the things that actually kind of made me think this, I really wish I could track it down, but they had a concept art of her, and here's the thing too, I'm actually missing one piece of it, and I'll bring that up in a second. She actually has a mech suit, and that's kind of the primary mode of her gameplay. And if you put these things side by side in the original concept art, I'm not kidding, if you actually colored her entire suit red and gave her red hair, it would be an Asuka skin. It really would. Because there's just no denying that concept. And so one of the jokes that I'm actually going to make is Blizzard has officially shown us what would happen if Hideki Anno and Hideo Kojima had a love child.
I honestly
we already got that with Zone of the Enders, though.
I really feel like you're stretching here.
I have to agree.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
oh wait.
Alex.
So
Alex,
here's the mech suit.
Yeah, you're really kind of grasping at straws here because, I mean, there's been a lot of
Are
giant
you telling
robots.
me that doesn't look like Rex in some ways?
Not really.
I mean, it kind of looks like an armored core.
Yeah, kind of more like that, or kind of like one of the robots from Virtual On. And there's been a lot of mecha anime with female pilots that really, it's generic.
It kind of looks like Gargantua also. I'm sorry, Adam. You're kind of.
It kind of looks.
I'm probably stretching a little bit, but like the first thing that came to my mind when I was watching the panel, I'm like, dude, that's Anno and that's Kojima. It's like they had a love child or something.
Yeah, to me that mech looks more like it looks kind of like the Valkyrie fighters from Macross, except before it's like in that in-between state where it hasn't completely changed to its mech form, so it still has the wings and the pilot, but it has the legs. That's kind of what it looks like to me.
It kind of reminds me of Gargantua, Virtuous Planet. If any of you have seen that, the mech kind of looks like that, just minus it not having a head, because it doesn't.
I just bought that anime, but I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, it's good. You'll enjoy
Point
it.
being, it looks kind of generic. It just looks like typical generic anime-inspired mecha girl with a giant robot. That's really what it looks like here.
I think if anything,
I'm not claiming that Blizzard is copywriting. I think far from it. I look at that and go, I have a feeling that one of the designers was on a real Metal Gear kick and decided to make a Gray Fox character. You know, that's at least my viewpoint. But however, I will at least give credit to Blizzard because they've had a stigma for quite a while now where they tend to create more hourglassy female characters. You know, like very thin, very sexy looking. And thankfully, they've been stepping away from that. One of which is Sergeant Hammer in Heroes of the Storm, where it's a little bit more of a chunky female character. Granted, the character is at 80% a StarCraft 2 siege tank, but you at least have something close to that. The third character they actually announced was a little bit better in that regard. The third character, May, is actually not that stereotype anymore, and I'm very happy that they at least did that.
She looks like an ice climber.
Well, have you seen the concept art with her out of the outfit?
No. I've just seen. I'm just looking at her official page on the Overwatch site.
Yeah. So this is actually a concept art thing that they actually put up, and so yeah, she still has kind of that hourglass-esque features, but I would actually dare say that she's got a little bit more of a husky exterior to her. Granted, she's supposed to be an Antarctic explorer. I'll at least give Blizzard the credit that they stepped outside that usual assumption.
Problem is, that's not that great of a picture. The anatomy seems kind of off. It's almost kind of like they drew the top half first. Yeah, they drew the top half first, and then like it was like the bottom half was drawn by a different artist. It doesn't feel like it's part of the same body. So maybe they may want to, if they want to. I mean, yeah, it's concept art. But that's probably not the best picture to show what she looks like outside of the suit, because you've got the arms that look like they actually have like extra muscle to them, but again, Adam, the hourglass waist, it's
trying to give
look up the official art for Zarya. For
Zarya? Well, she's another good example of it.
Exactly. I mean, since we're on this boat, we might as well take a tiny detour.
I don't actually need to do that because I'm on overpwn.com and they have it. So I actually love a lot of the original concept art for Zarya too. It really is them stepping outside of this assumed stereotype they've walked themselves into. Let's see. Actually, no, I don't have the original concept art for it.
I would say just hop onto the Overwatch website.
Yeah, I'm doing that. While I'm doing that, other announcements. StarCraft didn't really have a whole lot because they have a game coming out literally next week. But they did also announce like little episodic arcs that they're going to be doing from here on in to keep StarCraft 2 alive after. The other announcements that they had was the Warcraft movie trailer actually did launch. The first one, we'll be covering that a little bit later and getting the opinions of all the panel on that matter.
Like a Warcraft movie.
Yeah,
I love that. That's what we got in our show notes here, is that Aldo's like, Aldo edition review, it looks like a Warcraft movie.
Yeah, I've got a few choice words.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Dun dun dun.
I'm worried about that. I can't actually bring up the concept art. It won't let me right now.
I was going to say just her official little profile thing. Anyways,
let's see. Any other thing? World of Warcraft obviously had a big announcement with their new expansion coming soon. And Heroes of the Storm had 3 new heroes, one of which was a Overwatch hero. It's the first Overwatch hero to hit Heroes of the Storm, and that is Tracer. And Hearthstone had a new campaign, or a new adventure mode called the League of Explorers, which is basically a Indiana Jones ripoff if I've ever seen one, but you know what? It was silly enough that I was okay with it. So that's roughly the announcements that we had from BlizzCon. As far as like in detail analysis for it, I'm just going to quickly pimp this. I'm actually going to be doing in-depth videos on all of them. So if you guys want to see what my thoughts are, because I'm technically the only Blizzard fan on the panel, if you guys want to see more in-depth stuff, it's going to be on my channel over the weekend. So you guys can look forward to that. Any thoughts that people have? Like Aldo, did you actually see anything from BlizzCon that you were remotely interested in?
No. I saw the Warcraft trailer, and I literally saw that out of sense of duty for this podcast.
Same here.
Yeah.
I'm now worried. I almost want to get into it now. I really do, because I almost want to make an argument that we ought to group review it, but now it sounds to me like we're not going to.
Honestly, I'll go watch it because it's kind of one of the biggest video game movies to come out in a while.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely gonna see it, but as an outsider coming in, it just looks like a Warcraft movie.
Yeah, again, since I'm someone who's not familiar with Blizzard in any way, I'm just looking at this and I'm thinking, they probably should have waited till the film was a little bit more complete before releasing this trailer. I know they had to release something, but I'll get into more detail when we actually talk about it.
Yeah. So
As a cynical fan, I'm disappointed the armor isn't more bulkier and impractical.
Yeah, that's actually a complaint I've been seeing a lot of people doing. Wait, the shoulders should be bigger.
Yeah. Let's just say the comments are already filled with vitriol regarding, like, I mean, have you seen the YouTube comments on that teaser? It's a mess. Like,
I haven't read them yet. No.
I need to.
get the popcorn. That's all I can say.
Well, that's the usual on YouTube anyway. You know, you get the popcorn when you read comments. So let's actually just go ahead and get into the entertainment portion of the show, because really a majority of the announcements this week was entertainment. Aside from BlizzCon 2015, that's all the tech stuff we have. So the first story that we have for entertainment is an unusual one, because I've seen literally 50-50 opinions on this story since it broke, and that is that CBS has announced that they will be launching a new Star Trek series. But wait, there's a caveat in there. So regular CBS viewers will be able to see the pilot. But after that, all of the Star Trek episodes of the series, if it even gets approved for it, would actually be shown on what I believe is CBS's streaming service, CBS All Access.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have to, and I believe it's a subscription service, is it not?
Yeah, it's a lot like HBO Go, where you have to pay the extra money. It's just, well, with HBO Go, you get it as part of paying for HBO. With CBS All Access, you have to pay $6 a month, and they're basically kind of doing a Netflix thing here, where it's going to be exclusive to CBS All Access, because that's kind of the direction television is heading now. Because let's face it, network television as is hasn't been doing that well in regards to like netting new viewers. I mean, some shows get an audience, but it's been really losing out to the internet, and so this is just a way these networks have begun to adapt. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they also decide to do this with Supergirl.
Well, yeah. I mean, Supergirl airs, but technically they could have done this. And people probably would have paid. In fact, that's one of the things that's a little shocking to me, is that they're even going to show the pilot on there, and not just 6 months and then show the pilot on there.
Well, it's because they got to hook it in somehow.
All Access, and there's 6 months worth of episodes.
Well, yeah, it'll probably be something along the lines similar to the Menagerie, where it'll just be like a 2-hour episode, just to get people hooked and saying, want more? Subscribe to CBS All Access.
So I actually received a lot of questions when it came to the story, because this was also a fan suggestion, and frankly, they were all Trek-oriented questions, and I wish I could answer all of them, but frankly, I mean, I'm a Trek fan, but I'm not the most devoted. So one of which I actually brought to Romney, because I looked all over the internet and I could not find what the series was actually based in, and I had kind of the same assessment Romney did, but a lot of people were like, well, maybe they would base this in the Next Generation, like a lot of the Star Trek series have been. Next Generation was based in it, obviously. Deep Space Nine, Voyager, were all based in that kind of era.
Well, by the looks of it, it's supposed to be based in the rebooted universe from Abrams.
That was kind of my guess that they would do it. They would basically jump on the J.J. Abrams hype train and base this around the 2009 version of Star Trek.
Well, especially given that this is going to be launching pretty closely after the release of Star Trek Beyond, the third movie that Simon Pegg is one of the writers. I can't remember the name of the director who ultimately got the job, but given that they just barely wrapped production and then they came out with this announcement, they're probably going to have it.
The director for the series?
No, the director for the movie, like the third movie, since Abrams went to do Star Wars, they had him direct. They had brought in a new director, and Simon Pegg was brought in as one of the writers for Star Trek Beyond. And given that this announcement came pretty close to after production wrapped for Star Trek Beyond, they're probably going to try to have it come out closely after the release of Star Trek Beyond to kind of capitalize on the hype left by that film, to kind of have that lead into the new series. Now, one of the questions I know you probably got, that because you asked me this before we came on, was whether or not, like if it's going to be the same crew that we see on the Enterprise in the movies, if it's going to be the Next Generation crew. So far, from what we've seen on the official announcement, and the article we have is from the official Star Trek website, is that it's going to be an entirely new crew. It may be the Enterprise, maybe it'll be a different ship, but for all we know, this is still in the development stage. So as of right now, it's an entirely original crew. It's an entirely new crew, entirely original storyline with just the same basic concept as Star Trek, the original series.
Yeah, so that actually was one of the questions that I did get, which was, are they actually going to is CBS going to go the extra mile and pay Chris Pine and pay Zachary Quinto, pay all of them to come in and be part of a TV series. And I actually responded to this person. I'm like, I already looked at him and went, no, because Zachary Quinto is doing a bunch of other projects, so having
Heroes Reborn, I'm sure he's pretty much coming on for that.
Yeah, and so at that point, I don't know if they would have the budget to be able to do it. I think it would be better for them to start with a brand new crew and work from there. Yeah,
especially considering how expensive 2 Human was. That was a J.J. Abrams show, and they brought in Carl Urban, and that was in and of itself very expensive. And so they're probably going to try to do, if they are going to tie to the movies directly, they're probably going to do the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing, where it's just a separate crew, part of the whatever, I can't remember. Yeah.
Just to kind of branch into that idea, is it going to be like where we're going to have Chris Pine actually guest starring on it? Probably not, but they might find a way to bring in like the kid who plays Chekhov. Or I'm trying to think of the lower budget people in there. Maybe Zoe Saldana. Well, no,
because she's higher budget.
Yeah,
I mean, she's like lower budget. You could get Anton Yelchin. You could get John Cho because he's done TV work.
Yeah.
In a pinch, you probably could convince Simon Pegg to come on for 1 episode.
In a pinch, you could probably convince either Simon or Zachary to do it, but it would really be a pinch. And on top of that,
Zachary
you have to negotiate that.
Zachary was on American Horror Story, so he is willing to do TV stuff.
Well, yeah. Plus, with Heroes, that's the key thing is that contracts. Because with Heroes Reborn coming out pretty soon, he's going to be really tangled up in that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's probably more the key things that they probably won't be able to get him because it'll be a huge contract dispute, especially since you've got Heroes on NBC and CBS and Paramount are producing the new Star Trek show. That would just be a bunch of red tape they'll have to sort out. And so it's probably they're probably going to try to minimize as many ties to the original as much as they can. So closest we could probably get would probably be the guy who played Admiral Pike, and that would be about it.
Oh yeah, he'd be easy to do because he'll do it. But you could probably even bring some of the second and third string characters that were in like the first couple of movies and have that too. But the bottom line is that this is not going to be the 2009 Enterprise crew. I guess there's actually a thing going on right now where they think it's going to be, and that Chris Pine or Zachary Quinto would actually do that. And I'm very, very pessimistic about that. I don't like nothing against Chris Pine. I think Chris Pine's a good guy, but the bottom line is that he can earn a lot more than this. If maybe we had hit Chris Pine during his Princess Diaries days, like where he was trying to get recognized, then you would be able to afford him.
That's what they did with the first film, basically, is that they got him while he was an unknown.
Yeah, exactly. And so at that point, that's when you would have gotten Chris Pine. You're not going to get him now.
Yeah, and so really, it's probably for the best as well that it is an entirely new crew, because there's a lot that's already been established with the crew in the movies, and it's clear that Paramount wants to continue making the movies, especially now that Star Wars is on the horizon. It's their main competition. They don't want to relent because they've already lost their director. And so it's probably a case of they're going to try probably taking pages from Marvel and say, okay, well, we have the TV show that connects somewhat but still does its own thing, and we have the movies that connect somewhat and still do their own thing. So kind of like the Highlander franchise almost.
I do have to wonder though, with kind of the anticipation for the third Star Trek movie and kind of the new expected action set piece that have been the first two, if they're gonna go back to kind of being a more intellectual series like the original TV shows were, and if they do, how disappointed and annoying our new Trekkie's gonna be that the movies had more action.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, diehard Trekkies aren't exactly all that impressed with the first few.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying those. I'm saying the new Trekkies, the new fans.
Oh yeah. Well, here's the bottom line. I have to admit this. I just made 1,000 fangirls cry because I basically confirmed Chris Pine would not do this. Neither would Zachary Quinto. Not necessarily saying he wouldn't, but it would be really hard to bring him in.
Yeah, and to kind of address another.
I'm sorry, fangirls. I didn't mean to make you cry.
Well, yeah. To address another issue, a lot of people think, then they're going to go with Captain Picard. Personally, I think it would be too soon for them to try to establish this universe's version of Captain Picard, especially considering that they're a good hundreds of years apart from one another, I think.
Plus, I actually think it would be a good idea to start fresh.
Mhm.
Have a new captain, have a new crew. Now, I already know like 3 or 4 Star Trek fans that I'm friends with that are already going to be screaming at me through their PC screens eventually sometime when they watch this, and that's how we got Captain Archer! That's not what I'm emphasizing here. Enterprise had a good idea on paper when it came out. It was a brand spanking new crew. You weren't having like Captain Jebediah Kirk, who is the great-great-great-great-grandfather of Kirk, which believe it or not, was actually one of the original concepts for Enterprise, is that a Kirk had to be in that chair.
Yeah.
No, they don't.
I'm just suddenly like picturing like William...
saying Captain Archer was a bad idea and you shouldn't do an original concept. Benjamin Sisko was also original concept, and I don't see anybody complaining about him.
So was Captain Picard.
So was Catherine Janeway.
Yeah, Jebediah Kirk. I'm just picturing like William Shatner with like a coonskin.
I think we just found our episode title, Captain Jebediah Kirk.
Well, I'm just picturing like it's like William Shatner with a coonskin cap, and like the Enterprise is like made entirely out of wood, but somehow still floating in space.
You'll get off my Enterprise, you hear me? That's exactly what just happened.
Yeah, but then just watch it goes the Simpsons route, where it turns out Jebediah Kirk like was actually an imposter who was like an escaped pirate that people think he's a hero, but because he was lying, and that's an obscure Simpsons reference that most of the people who still watch the Simpsons aren't going to get.
I get it.
Thank you, Alex. So I guess one question that I need to bring up before we need to move to the next story here, because we've got quite a bit on entertainment. First of all, I don't think I've actually asked this. Trek is so embedded in geek culture that I think I just made the assumption that you guys were at least aware of Star Trek, but I don't know if I actually made the assumption that you guys were fans. I can already say I'm not really. I've seen Trek, and I don't have a problem with it, but where my family is entrenched in the Star Trek versus Star Wars war, I'm the one Gundam fan who pleads neutrality. So at this point, I actually would open it up to the panel. Are you guys Star Trek fans at all? I mean, is this exciting to you to see a series back on the air, so to speak?
I'm just more curious just to see if they can do it in this day and age, because we've had people trying to do science fiction shows. I mean, like Firefly didn't last very long because over budget, not enough ratings. I mean, there was a reboot of Lost in Space they were trying to do back in 2008, specifically in time for what was going on with the housing crisis. Never got off the ground. And so I'm just more curious to see if they can actually do it, if they can actually pull it off. As for any like sci-fi stuff I'm into, I mean, I'm not really that much into sci-fi per se. I think the closest sci-fi thing I only have a moderate like following with, and that's mainly because of my sister and my mother, would be Stargate, and that's about it.
You mean SG-1?
Yeah, SG-1.
Okay.
I saw Atlantis, I saw Universe.
Oh, my apologies. I only watched like half of the first season of Universe. I couldn't do any more than that.
I only saw one episode, and I couldn't do more than that.
Yeah.
And it was the one that they brought Michael Shanks back, and I'm just like,
Wait,
I mean,
Shanks went back? Wow.
Well, yeah, like he actually reprised his role as Dr.
Daniel Jackson.
Daniel Jackson. It was like a flashback scene, but I kept thinking, it's called a tripod! Put the camera on a freaking tripod! Handheld does not make it better!
Found footage does not make it better. So, Alex, what are your thoughts on a new Star Trek series?
I'm not a Star Trek fan, and the fact that this has to hide behind a CBS paygate isn't going to make me one. Sorry, CBS, you're kind of screwing yourself here.
I'm trying to think. Did you actually? I could have sworn you got dragged to the 2009 reboot.
No.
I would assume that was by you, Adam.
No, because we weren't doing reviews by then. I could have sworn your dad did it. Because
I'm sure my dad went and saw it, but I wasn't dragged to it or anything.
Okay.
I went to the reboot by choice, so.
So did I. But partially because my dad wanted to go see it. So.
Same here.
So Aldo, what are your thoughts on a new Star Trek series? Like, will you watch it? Are you excited for it? Do you have opinions on this?
I mean, my Star Trek was Next Generation, but I'm not excited for it. I'm not interested in it really. I mean, my love of Star Trek begins and dies at Next Generation. Honestly, my only real curiosity is whether or not the new Star Trek fandom will even dig this if they go remotely close to what the TV shows were.
I honestly think this is more of a pleading to the old Star Trek fan base to come back more than the new.
I honestly don't know. It could be both.
Yeah, especially after the second film, which was very... Yeah, I mean, after the crap of the second film, they probably want to try to bring as much of the old fans back because, I mean, it was not that good. They wasted Benedict Cumberbatch, and it was just a lackluster remake of Space Seed, except trying to make it like Wrath of Khan. And I got into huge debates with my brother about this. My brother liked Into Darkness. I didn't. And I argued back and forth with him about why some of the stuff they did didn't make any sense. Like, Spock would not scream, Khan! That's just not his character at all, even in this new universe.
The script says otherwise.
I'll admit I did like Into Darkness, but mainly because of some of the reversals that they tried to do. One of which was the Khan scream happening from Spock. I thought that was... Well, I didn't think that was in character. I just thought it was funny.
Well, Kirk sacrificing himself for the reactor, that I liked. Like, okay, that was a nice reversal. But Spock, I mean, he wouldn't just shout Khan, because a lot of people think, oh, it's just the yell, but no. In the original Wrath of Khan, in that scene, Khan is specifically taunting Kirk, because he has trapped Kirk in the center of a planet. That's why he has, like, I'll leave you the same way you left me, trapped in the center of a dead planet, buried alive. That's after he says buried alive. That's when Kirk goes, Khan! Because he's taunting him. But
so at that point, I mean,
no sense.
Again, I will say that I only appreciated that scene because I laughed at it. I'm like, a reversal. But that's just me. And even I'll admit that Into Darkness had some flaws. So, with that said, I do think we need to move on because there really isn't a whole lot. My opinion on Star Trek, since I'll admit I'm somewhat interested, but the pay gate really bugs me. And so at that point, I would probably watch the pilot, but I would wait until it hit other mediums to be able to watch it. Because I know that at some point they'd work out a deal with Amazon Video
or Hulu.
And let me see it that way. But that I'd wait until then. So I don't see a reason to join the hype train, choo-choo. So let's go ahead and go on to the next story. And I could have sworn we reported on this last week. So Netflix has announced that they would like to produce their own anime. Wait, I thought they were doing it already.
I just did some research. No, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, they did license shows, but they didn't actually produce it in-house like they do their other shows.
Yeah, so this was just done at another studio, and it was paid for by Netflix?
Pretty much. Yeah, like, so Knights of Sidonia was licensed, and they basically did a simulcast agreement with the people behind Knights of Sidonia.
So they also did the localization for it, and then they also did the licensing for the Seven Deadly Sins to be a Netflix exclusive anime, not Netflix approved. Not Netflix produced.
Funded.
Yeah.
So it's licensed by Netflix, but that's it.
Oh, they're apparently even doing Precure now, which they're calling Glitter Force, which, well, I mean, can you think of really any other name that would make sense in the U.S. for a series like Precure?
No.
So yeah, we have.
So I guess we're premiering Aijin Devil or Demi-Human. We have Seven Deadly Sins. We have Glitter Force, and then obviously we have Knights of Sidonia. There's another one on there, isn't there?
They have a ton.
Another mech-based one that's on Netflix on right now also.
Well, that they license or that they have on there.
That they license, I think, because it's got the whole Netflix original series on it. Crap! To the internet. I have to answer this now. So, did they actually? I'm not seeing like an official studio, so they're saying that they'll do it in house.
Probably not in house. They'll probably license an anime studio, much like what we predicted with Crunchyroll doing the same thing. They'll probably go to a studio like, say, Madhouse or Bones, and probably say like, hey, we want you to create an anime series that people will like, and maybe specifically gear it towards Western audiences, because that's the audience we're aiming for. But they also have Netflix Japan, so it might even be a case of, hey, make an anime series for Netflix Japan. We'll simulcast it with Netflix USA.
By the way, the title is Aldnoah Zero. This is the other one that has like a moniker of the Netflix original series.
That wasn't produced for Netflix, though.
Yeah, it was licensed though. That's the key thing. So it
Then
means
they
that,
advertised this to me wrong.
well, that's the thing though, because they're not
seeing
really
the
advertising.
Netflix.
Let me see.
Sorry. I'm
don't even
on
think it
Netflix right now. I'm not seeing the Netflix stamp on it.
Considering it's A1 Pictures, I want to say it's primarily licensed by Aniplex America, not actually by Netflix. It's by Aniplex America, and they're streamlining it to Netflix and probably Crunchyroll too. So this is not the case of Crunchyroll. I don't know why Crunchyroll. I don't know why Netflix is branding it an original when it's not really.
Probably just to kind of advertise it to the average person who isn't an anime viewer, who's basically saying, hey, you want to get into anime, saw some clips of Attack on Titan, and want to see some stuff like it? Well, here's what we have as Netflix exclusive series, but they're not going to say exclusive, they're probably going to say original, because that's what they have the branding for, much like how they have it for...
I'm just saying that, like, I was just on the site and I didn't see the stamp on it, but, I mean, that's a whole other thing. Now we're just getting to semantics. Wait, so did you guys report, was it last week, on the Crunchyroll also producing anime?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying this is familiar.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is pretty much what Crunchyroll...
I wasn't sure if I was or was not there.
It's all right. Well, you weren't there, but we did report on it.
Okay.
Well, yeah, because we talked about Hideki Anno a lot. We were expecting, like, you to kind of come out of the ether.
Yes, we flashed the Hideki Anno signal, and you did not come out of the woodwork.
Dang it! Hideki Anno hates me in spirit and as a fan.
Now I have to actually ask, what would be the Hideki Anno signal? Would that be a random girl in a plug suit gynaxing, Alex, or what would that be?
No.
Well, I guess it would depend on whether you're trying to summon Hideki Anno, or if it's Hideki Anno trying to flip off his fans, because those would be two different signals.
I would try to summon Aldo, so Hideki Anno fan.
I think it'd be bouncing back and forth between madness and depression and...
So basically it would just be Shinji's face. That's what it would be.
If you were trying to summon me with a Hideki Anno symbol, or like logo, like a bat symbol, it would probably be a middle finger made out of a robot.
So basically, the middle finger would be shaped like an Ava, is what you're saying?
Yeah, like a group of Avas, but there's one that's standing up taller that looks like a middle finger.
Yeah,
like,
or then you'd like
that drawn.
or you'd have like along the bottom like teeth starting to show because it'd be a middle finger that's also going berserk.
Yeah, it's true. That's also true. So I mean, back on topic, Netflix trying to produce or aiming to produce anime. This is kind of my same viewpoint with Crunchyroll, is that I have no opinion until I actually see their produced content, which I guess is let's see, they're going to premiere Aijin Demi-Human in January, and then they have the Seven Deadly Sins up now, and Glitter Force is in December. So I can already tell you I'm not, like, Knights of Sidonia has my interest because it's a mech show, but none of the others that they're announcing have my interest. So
most of those are already pre-existing. I don't know pre-existing, but they're not made exclusive.
That's the other thing that I'm confused on.
Yeah.
They make it sound like they're going to produce original content.
That is what they're looking to do. The way an anime generally works is they form large production committees, which is usually a couple of sponsors, a music label, and it sounds like Netflix wants to jump onto that.
Jump on the bandwagon.
And right, they might have how they're going to go about this obviously remains to be seen, whether they'll primarily just contract Japanese studios, Japanese crew and such, or they'll make a collaborative, like Western, Eastern kind of deals like we've had in other projects. It's sort of
kind of like Spawn, maybe, like, because I know Spawn was animated by a Japanese studio, but was written and voiced by an American crew, so it could even be something in that regard. I mean, who knows? Maybe they might even try doing a Spawn show on Netflix, given that there's a bunch of superhero stuff that they're trying to rush onto Netflix. I wouldn't be surprised.
Another example would be the Thundercats reboot, the Marvel animes, the DC anime.
We don't bring up the Marvel animes, Alex.
Yeah, I know they're not great. I know they're not the greatest examples, but just in a general sense of how it works, Eastern and American collaborative work.
Also, as far as Eastern and Western collaborative, Afro Samurai, I believe, wasn't that an American?
Yeah, I believe it
I think
was.
so, yeah.
But,
Samurai.
yeah, because like Manga Entertainment did a lot of that same stuff. That's how we got Vampire RGD Bloodlust. That was something that Manga Entertainment produced specifically, and who knows, even 4Kids might get in on it, because I know 4Kids, they funded the first Yu-Gi-Oh movie we saw here in the U.S. Like Pyramid of Light was specifically commissioned by 4Kids Entertainment, so
I don't even think 4Kids is around anymore.
They are, because they still have the Yu-Gi-Oh license. It's just that
I think they've had some pretty financial blows in the last several years.
Yeah, the TV Tokyo lawsuit did a number, but in the eyes of the U.S. courts, they still have the license to Yu-Gi-Oh, and that's pretty much the only thing keeping them afloat.
But they did file for bankruptcy in 2011.
Yeah, but I remember still seeing like them doing stuff for like Zexal, like even after they filed for bankruptcy. So
yeah.
Anyway, so I guess the only question that I would bring up with is, great, good on you, Netflix. Who would you work with? Which is the exact same question I brought up with Crunchyroll. Who would you work with?
I'm gonna, considering some of the shows that are exclusively premiering, I'm gonna lean towards the studio Polygon Pictures, and I know they do. Polygon Pictures is kind of, I don't know what they do. They do a lot of CGI shows. I know they did Sidonia. They're doing this Aijin series, so I wouldn't be surprised if they start getting very, very chummy with Polygon.
Yeah.
But do we see studios like, say, Madhouse or Bones actually working with Netflix?
I wouldn't rule them out. Madhouse, Bones, Production IG, these are really internationally acclaimed studios, so Netflix would be crazy to not go after them.
So, Aldo, you actually weren't able to chime in on the Crunchyroll story last week. So, I guess the question now rolls down to you. Do you have thoughts on either Crunchyroll or Netflix trying to produce their own original anime content? What teams should they actually bring in, and maybe like what kind of show should they be trying to make?
Okay, I'm just gonna go back to the past a little bit. When Netflix first announced that it was making original content, I kind of said, okay, we'll see how it goes. And so far, a lot of their original content has been great. So they've set a bar for themselves. So my expectations are right along there. So I'm kind of expecting really good stuff to come out of there. I'm expecting to see adult-oriented anime come out here in the West is kind of the thing I'm most expecting. But I mean, and with Crunchyroll, I don't know how I feel about that one exactly, because some of their Crunchyroll original manga I don't think is that great. But I don't know. I don't know. I would assume that's what they're gonna start out with, is maybe doing an anime adaptation of their original manga, but I don't know.
Can you think of a studio that they might bring on to take on a project?
Kind of like Alex, I'm kind of on the same opinion that they're probably going to work with Polygon. I wouldn't be surprised to see them work with Madhouse, because Madhouse does like to work with American companies all the time. But honestly, that's kind of I don't. With Netflix being such a big kind of global force, I don't really see that many companies being too out there for them to work with.
Okay. So, moving on, because there really isn't a whole lot to add to this story either. It's, they're going to produce anime. We don't know what the original content's going to be just yet. Excuse me. Moving on to the next story. This is the one that me and Romney are kind of cringing, because we don't want the pain.
Flame shields up.
We have to take the needle in the arm again, and that is, we have to bring up Zoe Quinn again. So Zoe Quinn is back in the news this week, and she has announced a new memoir, which obviously got the internet world abuzzed. They did not like the idea of it, and so she basically gave a big old FU, or she had the opportunity to give the internet a big old FU, because the movie rights have already been sold for it.
There's
I'm gonna let that sink in for a second. Because personally, I'm kind of giggling at this whole prospect.
I mean, I don't even see the memoir. It's like some people. I slept with some guy, and some people were mean to me on the internet.
Well, I mean, there could be a story that can be told. Now, the person that actually bought the movie rights is Amy Pascal. She was former chair at Sony. She got fired in the wake of the Sony hack after a lot of emails got leaked, and she was like one of the key people pushing for a lot of specific choices at Sony. And so she's the one who's bought up the rights for Zoe Quinn's memoir. And I'm looking at this and I'm just thinking, okay, how could you make this into a film? I mean, what angle could you take? Because you could very well end up with a feature-length version of what we got from Law & Order.
I'd giggle at that. I'd giggle at that prospect.
To me, this just has bad Lifetime movie written all over it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those topics that's really tricky to try to figure out how you would adapt it, especially, and I know it's on the blacklist, but there's no other way to avoid it, but when you look at Gamergate, there's too many conflicting accounts, too many conflicting narratives, that there is no clear narrative of what Gamergate is, and so there's just no story.
Just to clarify, because I'm going to clarify this now, because I have gotten questions on why we haven't covered it. It's because of that confusion, and because I cannot tell a specific side in any way. I'm thoroughly convinced I've counted like 10 sides in Gamergate.
Yeah.
This is why Gamergate stories have not come up. A, I don't like hitting hot buttons that literally have no direction. And on top of that, like, bringing up Gamergate just brings the trolls out of the woodwork. So to the people who actually have asked why I have not brought up Gamergate, that's why.
Yeah, and that's why it's on the blacklist, people, is because too many conflicting accounts. I mean, it's a D20 at this rate. It's gone from like 10 sides to like 20 sides at this point. And really, that's the big problem here, is that there's no way. That's why the people behind the Law & Order episode struggled so much. It's because there's no clear idea what is actually going on. There's no narrative anybody can follow that isn't a biased narrative. And so that's the real struggle they're going to have here in trying to make this into a movie, is that...
But can I just point out the one big, at least, irony to me on this whole deal is Zoe Quinn, I have nothing against you. Your life is your life. But, Internet, I need to have a conversation with you really quick. Do you think if you had given this much attention to this story, or that, you gave this much attention to the reviewer, that we would be in this situation right now, where she actually has film rights to sell, and she did sell them, and she has memoirs coming out. Do you think we'd actually be at this crux in our lives if you had, not given her all the death threats? I'm just bringing it out there. Hate me if you want, but I personally want to reach out to the internet and say, well, internet, you don't like it, but it's kind of your fault that this happened. I have nothing against this woman. I have nothing against Anita Sarkeesian, but the fact that you keep on giving the death threats and the rape threats and all that, you kind of give them the publicity. So it's kind of on you. Thoughts? I've already given our podcast episode a death sentence as far as comments are concerned.
I mean, if you recall, Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian were both at the UN summit to talk about.
Speaking of which, Aldo, you still need to show up in my house for house arrest.
Oh yeah.
Because that's totally gonna happen, right?
Totally.
Totally.
If by house arrest you mean we're gonna go play like Overwatch on a single beta code.
No, really, when actually that would be awesome, and frankly that would be cool, and we should do it. But really, what I was going to propose is to basically put you in an open cage and just let you sit at the bars, because that's pretty much what that whole accusation was to me. You're asking Anita Sarkeesian to sit in an open with a cage with an open door and just sit at the bars.
Yeah. Granted, that's more of an extreme example because, again, for those of you who are first-time listeners, this all comes from that really, really stupid petition saying, oh, Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian need to be tried under the Logan Act, even though the people signing the petition had no idea what the Logan Act actually is. I don't want to give the full recap, but let's just say speaking at the UN is not a violation of the Logan Act. Like, if they were specifically to go to Russia, or if they were specifically to go to ISIS and act against the best interests of the U.S., then
and
yeah.
Again, I will state this detail. How is speaking about cyberbullying releasing state secrets?
And how is that even acting against the interests of the United States? That's what the Logan Act is for. So if you want to go after people for the Logan Act, go after the senators that bring in President Netanyahu of Israel to speak to Congress to undermine the Iran nuclear deal. That's something you could try on the Logan Act. But no, they just care about people saying, oh, we've got bullied on the internet. Those are the people you go after? I mean, really? Really?
You know, Alex, I think we ought to take the podcast to the UN, because I think we could speak out on cyberbullying and the fact that it needs to stop. What do you think?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Trip to New York. Let's head to the budget.
And basically what I'm trying to do is set things up so that Aldo and Romney can arrest us under the Logan Act, apparently.
Oh, I was gonna accept this as a vacation to go to Japan and jump on the Ava bullet train.
Yeah.
That's some hype train I want to get on.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, there's no way for us to speak at the UN. But then again, given that there was a 15-year-old who was able to give speeches at the UN and has done it 3 times, I'm filled with hope. Of course, that 15-year-old's actually more of a badass than all of us combined. So
Yeah.
So that's just kind of my viewpoint on this whole thing. I think it's good on Zoe Quinn, actually, to be able to get memoirs going and then be able to sell the film rights. But I really just kind of want to bounce. Call me cruel if you want. I just kind of want to bounce back to the internet and say, if you guys don't, internet, if you don't like it, you created this problem. This is your personal Frankenstein. You did it. So at that point, you don't have a right to complain.
Yeah, it's like, you guys dropped the bomb on Bikini Atoll, Godzilla got woken up, got mutated, and now he's rampaging through the city, and you're complaining about it.
I'm sorry, did you just say that we dropped a bikini on Godzilla, and that's why he woke up?
No, we dropped the bomb on Bikini Atoll.
Oh, okay, all right, I'm good.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, because that's what happened in the first Godzilla movies, that there was the nuclear radiation, that the bomb was dropped on Bikini Atoll, it woke up Godzilla, he got mutated, got angry, and started rampaging. That's pretty much what the internet's done here. You guys dropped the bomb, and now you're dealing with the monsters.
Okay, this is how creepy things are going to get. I think I just figured out our episode title. We dropped a bikini on Jebediah Kirk.
Thing is, I don't think
it's been extra pissed lately.
That's where I'm at right now. I'm having a real hard time taking this story seriously because this is all the internet's fault.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
Yeah,
So,
I just feel sorry for what screenwriter they get to adapt it, because he or she is gonna struggle, like, big time.
Can we hire on Rupert What's-His-Butt from Snow White and the Huntsman? Just because I think this is a project right up his alley.
Rupert Saunders?
Yeah, he was the director, not the screenwriter, though. Big difference there.
No. I want to bring the director on because, man, he has a really great concept of making women look like Jesus, and I think you could do that with Zoe Quinn.
Even that, he didn't really make Kristen Stewart look like Jesus. He basically made Kristen Stewart look like a glorified houseplant that just stands there, not really
pretty much. Pretty much.
Yeah, like, but point being, there's no story here. And internet, you did this. You're behind this, so really,
your fault.
There's not much we can say. We've said it all. We said it all.
So moving on, because there really isn't a whole lot to go into unless Alex or Aldo have something to add here.
I could probably give a few suggestions of who could possibly write or direct.
Man.
I mean, there's one director maybe who could handle it, but. Not sure if she could, though, given I haven't seen much of her films. I mean, there's Kimberly Pierce. She could probably do it. There's the one who directed The Hurt Locker. But then again, Catherine Bigelow. But again, it goes back to the same problem. Who's going to write this thing? I mean, directing's one thing. Who's going to have to sort through all of the crap to try to find a narrative that can actually be created? That's the real struggle here. I mean...
Maybe Aaron Sorkin will do it.
Maybe, but I think even he would go through and be just like, there's no story here, I'm out.
Immediately look at this project and go, I ain't touching it with a 60-foot pole. I'm not doing it. Anyway, I'm gonna move on here. So the next
Speaking of
story that we have-
screenwriters,
Speaking of screenwriters, and actually, I have a feeling that the Geek News Prozac budget just went up a little bit.
Well, there goes our trip to New York now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, we have a little bit of bad news this week, and that is that Melissa Matheson, who is the E.T. screenwriter, also the ex-wife of Harrison Ford, has unfortunately passed away at the age of 65. I believe Melissa Matheson has done much more than E.T., but I believe E.T. was one of the biggest ones.
like her two major credits that are mentioned are E.T. the Extraterrestrial and The Black Stallion are like her two major credits listed here.
She's writing the BFG for Spielberg, so they reunited for that. She wrote the dubbing script for Ponyo on the Cliff by the Sea.
Yeah, and she also wrote segments in the Twilight Zone movie, as well as like TV movies like The Son of the Morning Star. She also adapted The Indian in the Cupboard.
Yeah, that's right. Was she part of the film for that?
Oh, I'm not sure. I just know that she adapted that book into a screenplay. That doesn't list a lot of the credits aside from that, because she seemed to be working with a lot of people, often as an assistant, like an assistant to Francis Ford Coppola on Godfather Part 2.
I know that she worked with Spielberg and Coppola. I'm trying to think of other big director, because she had a couple of big directors under her. Not under her, but like she would only be contracted by. That's hence why I know how she met Harrison. I think George Lucas was another one, wasn't he?
Possibly, but
if she did, it's uncredited. Her filmography is actually really small comparatively.
Yeah, I just need to look her up there. There we go, Melissa Matheson. Her filmography is the BFG, Universal Studios Theme Park Adventure. Oh my gosh, she was behind that video game.
No, she wasn't. They just gave her credit because her character E.T.'s in it.
Kundun, so she was a written by on that. Indian in the Cupboard, she was responsible for the screenplay. Son of the Morning Star, which is a TV movie. Twilight Zone, the movie. E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Escape Artist. The Escape Artist. Is that the one I think it is? No, it's not. It's Francis Ford Coppola's The Escape Artist. And then The Black Stallion. So she didn't have a whole lot to her.
Yeah, it looked more like
trying to think where she would have met Harrison, though.
Well,
probably through Spielberg.
Probably through Spielberg.
Yeah.
At a bar.
At a club or a bar. It's Hollywood. It's Hollywood.
It's Hollywood, but Spielberg was probably like the main connecting point because she probably did a lot of like work with other people. Maybe not. It's like she doesn't have any credits, but she probably worked with a lot of other studios, and so maybe that's probably just how they met. So maybe she was working with Spielberg on a certain project, but didn't like get exactly credited in a way that would have to be reported to any of the guilds. But
and I can't remember. Like I know she divorced Harrison. I'm trying to remember if it was one of those vicious separations. I don't think it was.
Nothing that can be mentioned.
I mean, the only I'm trying to think.
They're married for almost 20 years.
He's with Ally McBeal now, I think. And I'm trying to think if that relationship has gone sour. I don't think it has.
I'm looking it up now.
Callista Flockhart is her name. I actually had to think about that. And for the people who are going to scream at me going, "Are you an Ally McBeal fan?" No, I'm not. I only know it because...
Are you an Ally McBeal fan?
I am not. I am not.
Just a minute.
You want to know what I'm a fan of? I'm a fan of the Futurama show Single Female Lawyer. Single female lawyer! She wears mini skirts!
Yeah, I'm guessing, like, was there, like, a time where you were so sleep-deprived that you accidentally saw the dancing baby?
Oh, the dancing baby.
Well, that depends on your definition, Romney.
See, that... I
could have sworn I woke up yesterday and thought I saw a dancing baby.
Well, was it specifically... Was Blue Sweet's cover of Hooked on a Feeling playing?
Are we talking about the Coke baby?
Have you...
We're talking about the Chaka.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
the one that dotted every Windows 95 screen for like 4 years.
Well, yeah, that's where you got the dancing baby, because Ally McBeal is having like the whole...
There's your problem. I never had Windows 95.
We're getting on a tangent, but
it was a meme for a while.
I just remember though when I was fairly young when that happened, and my dad had like a screensaver of it, and we just thought it was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, and my dad got like a commemorative CD that was released to capitalize on the hype of the Dancing Baby. It had the Blue Sweet cover of Hooked on a Feeling, but then a bunch of other really bad covers. It was basically a CD that just had covers of the same song for a good 20 minutes. And literally, literally, on the cover it was like a lenticular hologram of the Dancing Baby. That's how big that meme before me got.
Getting back on topic for a bit.
Back on topic.
By the way, I just read this. You were wondering about her divorce to Harrison. Well, at the time of his divorce from Melissa Matheson, it was the most expensive in the history of Hollywood. Today, it's the 4th most expensive divorce. And
Really?
so I guess it was kind of nasty.
That sounds like knockdown drag out, but that may be wrong.
Well, that's kind of all divorces in general, really, especially like both inside and outside of Hollywood. Divorce is just a very messy thing in general.
So, overall, I'm sad. I'm sad to see a good writer go. Melissa Matheson, thank you for doing E.T. Thank you for doing the screenplay for it. Thank you for doing.
And now the BFG, which I convinced you, Adam, to come and see.
Which one?
The BFG.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Well, Indian in the Cupboard definitely holds a place in my heart because I just remember the VHS tape. When my mom got it, it had like a cool thing because it came with a figure of, I think his name was Little Bear or Running Bear, I think that was like the Indian's name. And the idea is that it was one of those plastic VHS tapes that you flip the cover and it looks like the cupboard, and it even came with like a cool little key. You put the figure in, turn the key, it's like, oh, I really loved that movie as a kid. And that's why I was excited when we read the book in elementary school. So
no, and I actually never read the book. I saw the movie, and that was about it. So we will miss you, Melissa Matheson, and thank you for once again upping our Prozac budget.
For
Nothing against you.
Ponyo, and so much more. Great dubbing script on Ponyo.
So the next story that we need to get to, which I'm now dreading because of Romney's words, is the trailer analysis for the Warcraft movie, because we got our first teaser trailer out of it. And to the people who actually think I'm talking about the 15-second one, no, there was a full 2-minute teaser that was shown because Warcraft is actually getting ready to release in March of 2016. So I guess I'll go into my thoughts first because I watched it first. I watched it with BlizzCon. I have a lot of worries about this film. I've followed the whole, it must be at least 6 years that they've been pursuing a Warcraft movie. So I followed the whole concept of bringing in Sam Raimi and then having him kind of drop out, having the deal with Legendary Pictures, then bringing on Duncan Hunter. I've been following this for quite a while, and I've actually been one of those people that has thought that Warcraft is one of those video game franchises that I don't think would work on the silver screen unless you were really heavy on the CG. Mm-hmm. And especially when it came to things like the orcs, I don't know if you could actually have done it. After watching the trailer, I'm at least a little bit more optimistic. I'm at least a little bit more optimistic after watching the panel last year at that BlizzCon, where they tried to justify having orcs in bodysuits instead of having CG characters. And I'm like, but they're not going to look like orcs, and so I was not for it. I will at least give the credit that an actor that I think has gotten a lot of flack over the years, he's at least being given a chance, and that is Ben Foster, because he has the role of Medivh in this film. I also do like the fact that they're going into the origin tale, the original concept for it. They are taking some liberties, but a lot of people don't know the original Warcraft Orcs and Humans kind of story there, so that's a good place to start when it comes to a game that is so steeped in lore. I actually had people in the live stream that I did at the opening ceremony saying, "What? This isn't War of the Ancients?" No, you got to do Orcs and Humans. You can't do something as complex as that without explaining a few things. So I will at least say I'm somewhat optimistic, more optimistic than I was when I had no information. But apparently other people on the panel are not so optimistic. So let's go ahead and get into that. Shall we go to Romney first, or does somebody else want to chime in?
Go ahead, Romney.
All right.
All right. Well, now. Keep in mind, I am not a Blizzard fan. I do not play WoW. I mean, I've played Blackthorn for like 2 minutes. So I'm coming into this as a relative newcomer who has no exposure to this franchise. And I'm filled with concern just at the overall look of this film. And given what I know now about visual effects and how they don't actually try to have them fully polished for the trailer, I got a very Aragon vibe from the overall presentation of the film, where it couldn't like strike that balance between being stylized and being realistic. Because on the one hand, you have like the bright colors, the stylized CGI for stuff like the orcs and stuff like that, but then you have them try to do some stuff that is also like realistic. I mean, the armor for one. Like people think, oh, the pauldrons aren't large enough, but to me, it's like, well, that just looks a little too big. Doesn't seem very practical, even as stylized armor. It just seems.
And one of the complaints I have actually seen is people actually did get mad that the orcs weren't wearing pauldrons, because the stereotype of WoW is that they have to be like 7 times their size. But in the trailer, there is one that actually is wearing them, and it looks okay.
Well, I was meaning more some of the armor on the human characters and how it just seemed kind of impractical. It just seemed kind of like one of those films that's caught in that awkward place between being stylized and being realistic. It's kind of one of those cases where if it was a fully animated feature, the design would have worked. But having the live-action actors there just kind of keeps putting a strain on that suspension of disbelief. Now, I acknowledge these effects are not the final effects we're going to see in the film. These were probably just the most polished they could get them to have a trailer, to have something come out, which is why they don't look that polished. But so far, the film's overall visual style, at least as we're seeing it, it's caught in an awkward place between stylized and realistic. I mean, not every fantasy film can have the same budget as Lord of the Rings. I get that, but stylistically, it just does not seem that appealing to me. It just seems like the kind of bad kind of fantasy film, though, that is only going to appeal to people who are already familiar with the lore, but not really to any newcomers. That's kind of the general vibe I'm getting, is that, well, this is probably really exciting if you're a fan of Warcraft, but it's not really convincing me.
I would actually make the argument that it does appeal to new people, because, like I said, there's actually a point of contention that I know a lot of Blizzard fans that I know of have had issue with, is that, and these are people who actually have played Warcraft 1. And there's actually a point in the film where it actually looks like they try to go for a peace. And that doesn't happen. Obviously, because in a game, peace isn't exactly what's selling the game. You know, the story there is that the orcs and the humans need to be against each other. I looked at that as a touching moment. I thought that was, especially since I haven't played the first game, so I looked at that as a touching moment considering the characters that were involved. I kind of get your argument on the stylized, or the stylization. I wish I could say I had a comfort for you, Romney, but when I looked at the stylized armor and I looked at the stylization of the orcs, that looked like the Warcraft universe to me. So at that point, I don't know if that comforts you.
Well, the thing is, I can compliment the orcs do look good. Like, that actually does look like, okay, they're doing the CGI acting. It's pretty much everything else but the human characters. It's like everything else but the human characters looked like it worked, looked cohesive. It's just everything else seems stylized, everything else like looks like it's made, but the human characters are kind of what stand out, but not in a good way, but kind of in the bad, this is kind of like Star Wars prequel level of CGI dependency here is kind of what I got, and that's an extreme example.
Is it just the look of them, or is it their characters that is?
It's the look mainly, because they feel so out of place compared to like everything else we're seeing. I mean, the orcs, everything, and like even the CGI orc baby, like all of that stuff. But then when you see like the half orc,
okay, I already know we're gonna get comments because you just mocked Green Jesus.
Well, relative newcomer. I have not played any Warcraft.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the lore.
That's going to be the irony of the whole thing, is that is actually a very prominent character, and that character has earned the moniker of Green Jesus. So
yeah, but point being,
I'm interested in the comments now.
Yeah, point being, the full-grown orcs, they look good. They look really good. It's just the having actual humans kind of puts the strain of suspension, especially when you see that half-orc. Like, when you see the half-orc, I'm just like, they've gone to the level of Star Trek, the original series, with their makeup. Because
you're talking about the one in the castle scene, right?
Yeah, because that half-orc is like, it looks really cheaply. Again, all of the effects aren't complete. I get that, but so far, I'm not really convinced.
Okay.
Really, it hasn't sold me.
Okay. So, I mean, again, my viewpoint is that I hate to say it, I've got kind of the same viewpoint as Aldo. It looks like Warcraft to me. It looks like the Warcraft universe. One of the other things that I know a lot, and this actually could be attributed to what you just said, Romney. All the effects aren't in yet. People actually got mad because they did actually showcase a wizard. At least we think they did. They tried to showcase Ben Foster's character, and not a single spell was thrown. And again, I would attribute that to the CGI is not in yet. So they haven't made the spells yet.
Yeah, let's just hope they don't end up the way we got with X-Men Origins Wolverine, where they have a scene left in the theatrical cut that they forgot to finish.
Yeah.
The cartoony cloth, they look like the singing sword from Roger Rabbit.
Oh, I thought you meant the whole movie.
Or the whole movie.
Yeah.
So I can at least say that as far as looks of cities and things like that, the armor, I didn't actually realize that Weta Workshop was actually working on Warcraft. That was kind of my dream, is that Weta would do it, but I did not know they were working on it.
Well, yeah.
I thought it at least looked okay.
That is kind of one of the issues with Weta, though, is that they do have kind of a unique style. But when it comes to some of their creatures, though, they do have a lot of things they like to fall back on. And again, that's probably why the orcs look really good, but then the production design in other places. And again, I'm not talking like CGI, but I'm also looking like at the designs of the armor for the humans, where everything just looks kind of. I understand that's probably how it is in the games, but like it's kind of like a cosplayer, but not in a good way, but kind of in a bad way, where you see the artificiality of it, where it doesn't convince me. It doesn't feel like I'm seeing knights in armor. I'm just seeing cosplayers LARPing.
Yeah, the problem is that the generalized armor that you saw like on a lot of the human soldiers in there, that is from Warcraft. But the distinction is really with the prominent characters, and they didn't get showcased enough, in my opinion.
Like
because
maybe
we got to see King Lane Rin, but we didn't get to see him in his armor. We got to see Anduin Lothar, but we didn't really get to see him in his armor. He's supposed to be a very prominent warrior.
Yeah, I think they just need to fix the color correction just that much a little bit to make everything seem cohesive, because that's the real problem. Is that even with the really, you have the artificially brightened colors of the forest and stuff like that, which also really stand out. So it looks very much like they had to throw something together really quickly, because
they probably did, because I'll bet that Blizzard wanted a trailer by now.
Yeah, point being, that's why it hasn't really sold me, is because it doesn't look like it's at the point where everything feels cohesive yet. Maybe when they release a trailer down the line, when post-production has wrapped, maybe I'll give it a second look. But what we're seeing here, it hasn't, as someone who isn't familiar with Warcraft, it hasn't really sold me.
Okay. Aldo and Alex have been kind of quiet on this matter. I'm now worried about them. Alex, what are your thoughts on the Warcraft trailer as you saw it? I'm
probably not going to be as mean as Romney here, so to you. So you're going to drag me anyway, so I'm not going to.
This is kind of true. I was hoping to be able to bring the podcast, but now it sounds to me like I'm not going to be able to make that sound.
Hey, I'm open to a group review. I'm not saying that I'm against it. I'm open to it. I'm just saying, so far, trailer hasn't sold me. So that's pretty much all. So I'm open to a group review. I'm willing to do it. I'm not saying I'm against it at all.
Okay.
The CGI, I don't know if it's complete or not. I usually would think movie CGI is a little more complete compared to game CGI, but I guess we'll have to wait and see with the movie.
Well, and also the other thing too is that you have to hold. Blizzard is held to another standard when it comes to things like cutscenes and cinematics, because they really do pull on the polish.
Right, and considering Weta is the main visual effects house here. Look, as long as it doesn't look like it's consistently at sunrise or sunset like the entirety of the Hobbits did, I think I'll be happy.
Yeah. Which, I mean, here's the thing, too. This is basically or at least to some people, this is going to fill your Lord of the Rings Hobbit fix. And so Weta could have literally phoned this in and just say, well, let's just reuse some assets. That could have happened. At the very least. Thankfully, Weta is one of those companies that can be relied on a little bit more than that. So any thoughts that you might have on this one, Aldo? Aside from what you actually said, which I have to share in the. So this is in the show notes, roughly before this episode. I have to actually show this opinion, which is trailer analysis, Aldo edition. Yep. Sure looks like Warcraft.
Oh, and then it said a lot less fetch quests.
Yes.
That's my comment to it. It looks like it. And it's compared to what Romney said. I mean, not compared, but in addition to what Romney said, I thought that the graphics looked as good as I thought we're gonna get. Which, if you couple that on top of what Romney's opinion was, that actually makes it sound like a bit of an insult. But I'm still kind of there.
Well, I mean, granted, when this was in concept, I thought this had to be a CG film. This had to be done by the Blizzard Cinematics department. There was no other way to do it. The fact that Duncan Hunter has actually tried to apply practical effects wherever he could, I'm still 50-50 about, but I'm kind of surprised that he went that direction.
Yeah, like I said, it looks like a Warcraft movie. It looks like a video game movie. If you want to take that as an offense or as a compliment,
Let's clarify that it's not a video game movie made by Uwe Boll.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do not speak of the dark times.
It's just
now that we have mentioned it, Linkara, Spoonie, and Nostalgia Critic must all get together for yet another review.
Yeah, but then it's also a case where we're all gonna have to be challenged to a boxing match with Uwe Boll now, all four of us.
Yeah.
I will take the Uwe Boll approach on that and just flip off the camera.
I would want to box Uwe Boll, mainly just so that I could actually, punch his smug face, because he's so freaking smug.
I would pay to see that, actually.
Oh, he would probably destroy me in the ring, but, I mean, I'd want to at least get one shot in, but, I mean, if it was a kickboxing match and I could actually use my feet, I'd at least be able to hold my own, but just hands, I'm screwed.
So, Alex, it sounded to me like you had a thought on what we were talking about.
No.
Okay.
No.
So, overall,
I didn't get to finish mine, but okay.
Oh, go ahead, Aldo.
No, I'm done.
Okay. Well, I thought you pretty much kind of emphasized, it looks like Warcraft. And I hate to be as simplistic as that, but Aldo has it right. It looks like the Warcraft universe.
I was just gonna say, as somebody who had a month free, a free month trial, and as much as I don't care about any of Blizzard's franchises that end with the word craft, I'm not that interested. Like, they didn't sell me as a very casual Blizzard fan. I'm not sold on it.
Yeah. I can kind of get that. I mean,
and just to kind of add to this, I do a little test because I have my family. I live with my family, so I showed them the trailer without letting them know anything about it. To which my mom responded with, "This looks like a terrible Lord of the Rings ripoff." So that's how the casual fans may or may not see it.
I would have gone so far as to say it reminded me a lot of Aragon. That's how far I would take it.
She hasn't seen that. She watched the Lord of the Rings movies. She powered through The Hobbit for me, and when I showed her this, she was like, "Well, this looks like a more cartoony version of Lord of the Rings," and I was like, "Okay."
Well, that's what Aragon was.
It kind of is. I mean, the inspiration for Warcraft is more Warhammer. Is it Warhammer? Yeah, it's Warhammer. But you could make that argument. This is a cartoony Lord of the Rings film.
Well, I mean, to be fair, anything fantasy after Lord of the Rings is pretty much Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's pretty much Lord of the Rings.
It's gonna be compared. That's just unavoidable at this rate.
It's one of the reasons why in the 90s, like every FPS that came out of there, every fan had the right to actually scream out, "Doom clone!"
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just now everybody screams COD clones.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But I for the record, Romney, I still scream Doom clone.
Yeah.
I'm a 90s kid.
Of course, I guess it would be better to call a COD clone instead of a COD piece.
Oh, they're calling it that too. Because it's the internet and we have to make a penis joke somewhere.
Yeah.
So,
well, you're not wrong.
Moving right along. Yeah, exactly. Because we could totally go into that with Warcraft. Anyway, we actually do have a question of the night, but we are really close to the end, so maybe we will hold this back, because this is a big subject.
Yeah,
and I actually want to devote some time to it.
This question keeps escaping us every single time.
Yes, and I actually wanted to be able to get to it, but man, it needs some time.
By the time we get to the question, we're gonna be at the next Zelda Symphony.
Which would be awesome.
Yeah,
We should
it'll
get
either be
together
at the
for it.
it'll either be at the next Zelda Symphony, or it'll be when we make that trip to New York and go to the Museum of Modern Art and see the video game display.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh,
Actually, one of the things I want to do is maybe we'll set aside some time next week and we'll get into this.
At least
And I'm
with
actually-
the question.
What?
At least say the question. At least.
That
pop
I was going to do that, but I'm also going to put it up on the Facebook thread so that people can give their thoughts on the matter. Do you think that more relevance should be given to helping making gaming or other mediums more relevant to the culture? And the example, I probably murdered Romney's question on the matter
did.
or the wording
You
on
did.
it.
Well,
Could you elaborate on it?
Well, I actually pulled up the previous agenda that actually has it the way I written.
Okay.
So, in addition to do you think okay? So, in addition, do you think more relevance should be given to helping make gaming and other mediums more relevant to culture? The question I had that can be the follow-up question to that. So, we got a two-part question of the night. Would be: do people within the gaming community need to take things more seriously when the works they love are being showcased in distinguished venues? So, like the Zelda Symphony at Abravanel Hall, or video games being shown at the Museum of Modern Art. And so those are kind of the two-part questions. Do we need to make gaming more relevant to culture? And do we as gamers need to take this stuff more seriously when it's at venues like Abravanel Hall? And that's kind of the key thing that I'm coming at it from, because to kind of illustrate.
By seriously, do you need to actually be paying to encourage this kind of thing?
Well, not just that, but also to use the Symphony of the Goddesses, although it's been much better compared to, say, Video Games Live, where, I mean, Abravanel Hall, it's a symphony space, so naturally people who go to see the symphony are going to dress up a little. They're going to be respectful. They're not going to be, showing up like the typical high schooler and saying, oh yeah, it's just video games, so I can just be completely relaxed. No. You need to respect the venue, and that's... Now, at the play and at the Zelda Symphony of the Goddesses, people have been a lot more respectful in recent years because people realize, yeah, we need to respect the venue this is happening at if we want people to take this seriously. But at Video Games Live, I don't like those kind of concerts because, one, it's Tommy Tallarico basically living out his fantasy of being a rock star, and two, it just doesn't help communicate the fact that this gaming music deserves to be at these symphony spaces. It deserves the respect that we give it. And that's kind of the problem. And the problem's not,
it deserves enough of the respect that even the musicians give it when they actually play this.
Yeah, and the key thing is that a lot of think, it's like gamers stand together. No, sometimes the problem is within our community itself, that sometimes even members of the gaming community don't take it as seriously as I feel they should. And that's where this question comes from, which is why I initially submitted it.
Romney, are you mad at me?
Not really at you, because, I mean, you at least have some excuse, and at least still showed more respect to the venue, but I've seen some real assholes come to Abravanel Hall to some of these video game concerts.
Yeah, because the way you're talking, man, I feel really bad for going in a t-shirt and jeans.
Well,
I mean, you should feel bad.
I know, right?
I mean, at least you wore a Zelda shirt, so at least that was slightly better. But again, I've seen some real a-holes. Again, this was back... Video Games Live was when I've seen this sort of crap where people just don't take it seriously. They try to be kind of loud and obnoxious. And granted, the concert tries to be more...
What you're basically arguing is that, should you be wearing your PJs to this thing? Should you be wearing... I actually think you're kind of making an argument that cosplay isn't even appropriate.
Well, it can and can't be. I mean, again, it depends on the environment, but the key thing I just want to stress, not just with, dressing up, but just general conduct in general, because I use the dressing up as an example, but sometimes you have some people that just conduct themselves very poorly when they're at venues like Abravanel Hall, when they're at symphony spaces, but they don't treat it seriously like I think they should. And that's coming from someone, again, I come from a background from people who actually out of all the concerts, I like going to symphonies, but the way I've seen people conduct themselves at some of these video game concerts is appalling, and that's the problem.
Could you give a brief example?
Well, again, like I keep mentioning, Video Games Live, you have people who kind of, one, they dress the typical high school fashion of not taking it seriously, being loud and obnoxious. I mean, yeah, sometimes you're encouraged to cheer during these concerts, but there's a difference between just giving applause and ovations and then just doing the yeah sort of stuff, because that's just not what you do at those kind of concerts. And that's why I prefer Play and Symphony of the Goddesses, because it shows that, hey, we acknowledge that this music is worthy of the kind of respect, it's worthy of this venue, and I feel that even we as the gaming community need to learn to conduct ourselves better, because how can we expect the people who embrace the older media to take us seriously if we ourselves are not willing to take it seriously? That's kind of the main conceit where this is all coming from. You can see I'm really passionate about this because it's something that I've even had to debate with other people in the gaming community about, where they think, oh, well, it's gaming music, we don't have to take it seriously. No, you should take it seriously. If we want anybody else to take it seriously, I mean, look at film. Film for the longest time wasn't taken as seriously. Books for the longest time were taken as seriously. And so it's kind of the case of, if we want people beyond the gaming community to take the music, to take game seriously as an art form, as a medium of entertainment, then it has to start from within.
And Adam is just
I
slouching
feel really
down low in
bad
his chair.
right now. Because I'm basically everything that he's screaming at. So this is going to take some explanation. So Geek News was all at the Zelda Symphony, and I love Symphony of the Goddesses. This is my first time doing it, and I love the idea that they took Zelda music and actually made a symphony out of it. Because, look, bottom line is that a lot of video games actually have really compelling and really wonderfully designed soundtracks. I thoroughly believe that, and I think there is a worldwide Final Fantasy orchestra. I would love for them to come here, and they haven't yet, at least to my knowledge. But I was so happy when Symphony of the Goddesses happened, and I came in casual attire, and Romney was in full suit, so I'm like, oh great, I feel overdressed for this occasion now, or underdressed for this occasion now. And on top of that, so he was just saying that he didn't want people yelling or anything like that. And that's what I did in the concert when Wind Waker came up.
Well, again, it just brings it back to the main point that I want to make. It's the idea of respecting the venue, and it's kind of the whole. We have the sense of shame that was kind of ingrained into us as gamers for the longest time. That is only barely starting to go away, and it's kind of, in order for us to actually really push back against that sense of shame, then we as a gaming community just need to conduct ourselves better. I mean, it's the same case with the way we conduct ourselves on the internet. That's kind of the idea.
So a lot of this actually comes back to, I hate bringing this up over and over, but I've brought it up a couple times with some suggestions that Romney has, which is that people really do, like gamers, I strongly encourage need to watch Bob Chipman's To Build a Better Gamer, because the bottom line is that Romney's right. We actually have a major problem when it comes to this. Gamers do not acknowledge when we branch into new cultures. And in one of the cases that we actually need to do that is realize that gamer culture is something that defines us, but we also need to be able to be engaged in other parts of the culture. And so To Build a Better Gamer, I always recommend this video because it's really what is a common sense approach to having games being acknowledged. And I actually attest to this. My own family, when me and my older brother and my family were totally acknowledging the games, we didn't get taken seriously or we just thought, or we were told constantly that this is a glorified toy and that you're playing with toys. And look, bottom line is that's correct. But as we started getting into more culture-based stuff, like we would read the classics, or we would, take more of a classical music approach, and then we actually brought up things like gaming, and there was a little bit more leeway there. Then it didn't look like we were playing with toys anymore.
Well, yeah, and especially when you consider now that games can be used to tell really engaging stories. Granted, some of the best stories in gaming may not make the most sense some of the time, but that's also kind of where we're getting, is that games it's like gaming and animation, they're kind of in the same boat where we're getting past the point of it being just for kids. There's a lot we can actually do with this interactive medium, and we're still basically at the tip of the iceberg. But again, it needs to start from within the community, because we even have people within the gaming community. I mean, yeah, you have like the dude bro people who are like all obsessed with stuff like Call of Duty, Battlefront, and all of that.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of the case of, we just all, as a community, regardless of what games we like to play, we all need to kind of conduct ourselves better. And when games are shown at these distinguished venues, like the Museum of Modern Art, like the Smithsonian, like a Bravenel Hall, we need to conduct ourselves better to show that we acknowledge the respect this venue is giving to our medium. We need to be respectful in return.
It's also something to mention that things like this don't happen that often right now. Symphony of the Goddesses wasn't like something that happened every year. This is something very recent. And Romney might actually need to clarify this with me to not a screenplay, but like an actual play at one point.
They've done that in the past, sort of. There hasn't been anything done in an official capacity.
I could have sworn there was one that was actually going to be like a Broadway play, but it fell apart.
Well, I don't know about like done as a Broadway play. I know in Japan there's a lot of plays based on video games. I mean, most recently they have the huge Devil May Cry versus Sengoku Basara stage show that's kind of making its rounds. But I haven't heard anything about that in any regards here in the U.S.
I could have sworn that something happened in like the early 2000s where, and I can't remember what it was, or what specific series it was, but a game actually was going to be made into a legitimate Broadway play, and they were going to get proper actors to be able to do it.
I think I know what you're thinking about. I think because there was like a grassroots movement to try to create a Phoenix Wright musical here in the U.S. There was like a grassroots movement, but I'm not sure if there was anything done officially.
No, the franchise was older than that, and and here's why I'm not remembering it is because I can clearly remember I was not a fan of it. So I'll have to look this up, but this is one of those things that happens very rarely. And so at that point, we actually, if we want this to start happening and start being part of the culture, we actually do need to acknowledge it. And give it the proper respect.
Well, yeah, and to kind of bring it to kind of the idea of posting it to the Facebook page, well, let's post to the Facebook page. If we do the follow-up, we'll also address the comments made by specific people. Send your emails, make sure to let your name. We'll address some of the stuff that we want to know what you guys think about this. I mean, do you guys agree with me? Do you guys disagree with me?
This is one of those questions that we really do need to get the gaming, or not just the gaming community, the geek community as a whole.
Yeah, because it can
come together and give their opinions.
Because then it can extend to anime as well. I mean, back during Comic-Con, they had the huge sci-fi symphony that was a salute to science fiction, Star Wars, Star Trek, the music of science fiction also at a Bravo now. Also, it extends even beyond just gaming, but to just various fan communities of any kind. So yeah, please, by all means, go to the Geek News Facebook page. Let us know what you guys think about, answer these questions. Give us your opinions. Please keep them constructive. Don't resort to insults, because then we will not read them on the show. So
yeah, if we get constructive feedback or constructive comments, we'll be reading them live on the show.
Yeah, or even just ones that are written, that are actually, actual opinions written, eloquently, that actually are making a point and aren't just ad hominem attacks on the panelists.
What we're basically saying is if you write Zoe Quinn sucks, lol, you're not getting it written.
Yeah, post both parts of the questions to the Facebook page, Adam, because I want to see what we get in response.
Yeah. But unfortunately, we are actually now over because we were trying to discuss this. So we will discuss this next week. Because we're actually rolling right into the holidays times, and this is usually when I like to try and bring in other subjects aside from weekly news stories, just to have some discussion. Usually I go to nostalgic stuff, but this is definitely something I think should be brought up. So next week, this will be on the agenda. In the meantime, though, if people want to get a hold of us, specifically us, to give their opinions to that particular panelist, although we're going to go ahead and start with you, how do they get a hold of you?
You can get hold of me on Twitter at Aldo531. You can also find me on YouTube at boardoffline.net and AnimeOverdubES. You can also listen to my sweet dulcet tones, which are not sweet or dulcet, but they are tones.
Oh, to me they are. To me they are.
On the Reviews versus the World podcast on somewhere on iTunes, I'm assuming. I don't listen to my own podcast. If
I can find a link to it, I will bring it.
Cool.
I'll bring it there.
Otherwise, that's it.
Okay.
Find me here.
Alex, how do people get a hold of you to give their opinions to you?
You can talk to me a few different ways. I am here on YouTube. I am ShadowBlazer3000, where I do lots of anime-related content on my channel, unboxings, and the occasional Let's Play here and there. You can find me on Twitter. My handle is at AlexJShort. You can find me on Facebook, Alex Short.
What he means by occasional Let's Play content is that if there's a Kraken to be unleashed, he will unleash the Kraken.
I will release the Kraken.
Release the Kraken. Romney, if the Warcraft fans want to actually get a hold of you to give their feedback, which I'm sure is going to happen, and I am so sorry. How did Ross put it again? Come at me, scrub lord. I'm ripped. Is that it? Although, is that how he put it?
I don't know.
I think it's come at me, scrub lord. I'm ripped. How do they get a hold of you, Romney?
Well, I am Romney Reviews on Twitter, no apostrophe, and you can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Romney's Reviews, no apostrophe. And you can also find me here on YouTube, as always, at youtube.com/Studio Phantasma. That is Phantasma with an F.
And Monster, just in case people didn't know this, Monster Clash is up, right? It just barely made it.
Yeah, barely made it on Halloween, like skin of my teeth. And if people are wondering, oh, why haven't you done the Carrie video? Well, because Carrie is taking forever. Like there's a reason I couldn't do it last year, because it's more complex. But yeah, you can see my Monster Clash video talking about the 2 versions of Nightmare on Elm Street. I'll be working on a new episode of From the Shelf really soon. But yeah, in the meantime, you can always subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/GeoPhantasma. That's Phantasma with an F. And basically watch my reviews, my content. And I'm going to stop talking before I make us go over by another 30 minutes.
Really quick, so Alex, do you actually have any new content? I believe you had a review going up at some point.
I'm working on a review, so that'll go up.
Okay, so it's being worked on. Obviously, with although we have reviews versus the world, which I'm actually looking forward to listening to with entry anime, because that is such a hard subject for even me to answer. Friends of mine.
And I also have an Attack on Titan, the anime, not the movie review, coming up with them as well, so that'll be up on there.
Very cool.
Yep.
So, for people who want to get a hold of me, because I already know a bunch of the Blizzard fans are going to get mad at me for condensing BlizzCon 2015 so much. But that's just
we're
the way
sorry,
it goes.
we're not bigger fans.
No, here's the thing. Part of geekdom is that we have our unique fandoms. And it just so happens that my unique fandom here is that I'm a Blizzard fan. So
my fandoms are just too much better. I forgot how to English.
I could technically take the approach that everybody thinks Alex does, which is that he's the anime hipster of the group. So I could have done that, but I didn't. So if people want to get a hold of me, there are 2 ways to do it. One of which is on my channel, which is Drac2326. Obviously, you're watching this on there if you watch the direct link. Geek News is hosted on Drac2326, so you guys can watch the entire backlog of Geek News reviews and opinions, and we actually do have a couple more episodes to at least post there. So that's one way to get a hold of me. You can also reach me on Twitter under the same handle, Drac2326, and leave your opinions on why I'm a horrible Blizzard fan and I should die in a fire, because I'm sure I'll get those at some point. I'll probably also get the people who do not understand why I blame the internet for Zoe Quinn's success. But, that's just going to happen. If people want to get a hold of the show directly, there are 3 ways to do it. One is geekyweek@gmail.com. You can leave story suggestions. You can leave suggestions for other things that maybe we should be looking out for, because we've gotten those occasionally. You can leave suggestions for things that you would like us to play on Gaming with the Geeks, or for group reviews, because we're starting to get those now, and we're more than happy to take them in. If you want to leave your opinions on specific stories or say we're full of crap, you can also do it there too. You can also go to our Twitter, which is GeekyNRO, and you can leave a comment on stories that we've covered or stories that we should have covered. If you want up-to-the-minute information on when we're going live, that's the place to go. You can also go to our Facebook page, which obviously we just said we'll have this new discussion topic on the Facebook page. So please leave us a comment, and please leave a tasteful comment so that we can actually read it on the show, and maybe even give us like a little subtext that we can read names, because I don't want to read your full name. That doesn't sound cool to me. But you can look up Geek News Reviews and Opinions on Facebook and like it, and you'll get up-to-the-minute information on when we're going live. When we have discussion topics like these, that's usually where I'm going to leave them. And on top of that, you can also leave your opinions on the existing stories that maybe we did cover or we couldn't figure out how to cover. But in the meantime, since it's so late, and obviously I'm BlizzCon out, and I want to get out of this office chair. I'm not gonna lie here. I'm done. Me and this office chair, we need a break from each other, really bad.
We know, office chair, you like Call of Duty.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. On Dragon Shadow, we confirmed it. My office chair likes Call of Duty.
By the way, Adam,
it squeaks whenever we play RPGs.
Adam, you also need to stop saying MDT, because we're now on standard time. Daylight saving time is over.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So I need to stop doing that. But also a quick update to my channel. So the people who want the in-depth BlizzCon coverage, it is coming. I actually decided to take some extra time and actually do sections because I thought I was only getting like a good couple of announcements because that's usually how BlizzCon goes. But this time we got a good announcement for everything. So that's coming. It's going to be coming over the next couple of days. So I hope to have that to you soon. But in the meantime, because we're all tired and because I want to get out of this dang office chair, you have no idea. And I already know that Romney also wants to do the same. For me, for Aldo, for Alex, and for Romney. We'll see you next time for more geek news, reviews, and opinions.
Good night.
Come at me, Scrub Lords!
Do it. Come at me. Do it.
Love me, Ano Senpai.